Hello?
Ethan, I'm not sick.
What did you say?
You're listed as the beneficial owner.
I never signed this.
Ethan Carter was a 42-year-old forensic financial investigator from Columbus, Ohio, who looked more like a quiet handyman than someone who built fraud cases for a living. Most people believed he was too trusting, the kind of husband who never questioned why his wife disappeared every weekend to care for her terminally ill sister. He drove an aging Ford F-150, packed his lunch in a worn cooler, and spent Saturday evenings restoring old oak furniture. What they didn't know was that Ethan had spent 15 years proving that the smallest inconsistency could expose the biggest lie. Then his phone rang, and a calm woman's voice said, "Ethan, I'm not sick. If you're watching from somewhere in the world today, let me know your country and your local time in the comments. I always enjoy seeing where these stories travel. And if you love slow-burning mysteries where patience beats panic and evidence speaks louder than emotion, make sure to subscribe." Tomorrow's story might be the one that stays with you long after the screen goes dark. The call ended after less than 30 seconds. Ethan Carter remained motionless in the middle of his garage, one hand resting on the edge of the oak dining chair he had been sanding. Fine dust floated through the afternoon sunlight, pouring in from the open garage door. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower hummed across freshly cut grass. A neighbor laughed with his children. Everything around him sounded perfectly ordinary. Only his heartbeat wasn't. He slowly lowered the phone from his ear and stared at the blank screen. "I'm not sick." Those 3 words echoed louder than any accusation could have. He didn't call. He didn't text her. He didn't even look at the highway that led south toward Cincinnati, where she supposedly spent every weekend caring for her older sister, Lauren Mitchell. Instead, Ethan brushed the sawdust from his jeans, unplugged the orbital sander, and closed the garage door, as calmly as if nothing had happened. That was the first thing 15 years of fraud investigations had taught him. The first story was almost never the real story. 9 months earlier, none of this would have seemed possible. Their 2-story brick home sat on a quiet street in Dublin, a suburb northwest of Columbus. Every morning at 6:15, Ethan left for work, carrying the same faded navy lunch cooler Emily had bought him for their 10th wedding anniversary. She always teased him about refusing to replace it. "It has a broken zipper," she would say. "It still holds sandwiches." "It looks 20 years old." "So do I." She would laugh every time. Those small conversations felt real. Nothing about them seemed rehearsed. Emily worked remotely as a marketing consultant for a healthcare software company based in Cleveland. Her office occupied one of the upstairs bedrooms overlooking the backyard maple tree. Video meetings filled most weekdays, while Ethan spent his days inside the headquarters of Falcon Integrity Solutions, one of the Midwest's largest insurance fraud investigation firms. His job wasn't glamorous. There were no dramatic car chases, no detectives kicking down doors. Most of his days disappeared beneath spreadsheets, banking records, insurance claims invoices, and thousands of digital transactions. He looked for tiny mistakes. People lied with confidence. Numbers usually didn't. His coworkers often joked that Ethan could find a missing dollar hidden inside a $1 million balance sheet. He never laughed very hard. He simply enjoyed solving puzzles. At home, he was even quieter. Friday evenings meant grilled steaks in the backyard. Saturday mornings meant coffee from Winans Coffee and Chocolate before visiting a nearby farmer's market. Sunday afternoons belonged to woodworking. That routine had lasted years. Then Lauren supposedly became sick. Emily first mentioned it over dinner one rainy Thursday in October. She pushed her chicken around the plate without eating much. "I got off the phone with Lauren." Ethan looked up. "What happened?" "They found something during a scan." "What kind of something?" "They don't know yet." She swallowed slowly. "They're doing more tests at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center." The silence between them stretched naturally. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "When do you need to leave?" She blinked. "You don't mind? She's your sister. I should probably stay weekends." "Then stay." There had been no argument, no hesitation, no suspicion. Trust wasn't something Ethan gave halfway. Either he believed someone, or he didn't. Over the following months, the routine established itself with remarkable consistency. Every Saturday around 8 in the morning, Emily packed a gray overnight bag. She usually wore jean sneakers and a lightweight jacket. She kissed Ethan goodbye near the front door. "I'll be back Sunday evening. Drive safely." "I will." Then she climbed into her white Honda CR-V and disappeared down Riverside Drive before merging onto Interstate 71. At least that was what Ethan believed. Every Sunday evening she returned, carrying grocery bags, pharmacy receipts, or leftover bakery items from Cincinnati. Sometimes she talked about hospital cafeterias, sometimes about long waits in oncology clinics, sometimes about Lauren sleeping most of the day. The stories contained enough ordinary details that they never sounded rehearsed. Ethan never asked many questions. He knew enough grieving families through his work to understand that illness exhausted everyone involved. Instead, he found small ways to help. He mowed Emily's parents' lawn twice. He mailed flowers addressed to Lauren. He paid several restaurant deliveries directly to Emily's phone while she claimed to be sitting beside her sister's hospital bed. He even transferred nearly $4,000 into Emily's personal account after she mentioned experimental treatments insurance supposedly wouldn't cover. She thanked him through tears. Looking back, Ethan realized she had never actually asked for the money. She had only described the problem. He had volunteered. That memory hurt more than the money itself, because generosity always revealed where trust lived. Around Christmas, subtle inconsistencies began appearing. Nothing dramatic. Nothing worth accusing someone over. Lauren's chemotherapy schedule changed twice in 1 week. A doctor Emily mentioned by name couldn't be found when Ethan searched online while trying to send a thank you note. One weekend she claimed heavy snow delayed traffic into Cincinnati. The weather reports showed clear skies across southern Ohio. Still, weather forecasts could be wrong. People misremembered details. Doctors transferred hospitals. None of it proved anything. Ethan quietly dismissed each inconsistency before it became suspicion. His marriage deserved that much. February arrived. Emily began leaving earlier on Saturdays. Instead of 8 o'clock, she started leaving before sunrise. "The hospital changed visiting hours," she explained. He accepted it. March brought another change. She sometimes returned late Sunday night instead of dinner time. Lauren couldn't sleep. I stayed until she settled. Again, Ethan believed her. Not because he was naive, because trust without inconvenience wasn't trust at all. His co-workers occasionally invited him to weekend fishing trips. He declined every time. "My wife's taking care of family." One colleague nodded sympathetically. "That must be hard." "It is." "How's her sister?" "Still fighting." Ethan genuinely believed those words. Then came April. The flowers he had ordered finally arrived after being delayed because of an address correction. That Saturday afternoon, while sanding the oak chair inside his garage, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Instead, he answered. "Hello?" "Hi, is this Ethan Carter?" "Yes." "This is Lauren." He smiled automatically. "It's good to finally hear your voice." There was a brief silence. "I'm sorry about the flowers." "No need to apologize." "They were beautiful." "I'm glad they finally arrived." Another silence. Then Lauren asked a question that stopped everything. "What flowers?" Ethan frowned. "The arrangement I sent." "I haven't received flowers from anyone." He looked toward the driveway. "You just said, the florist called me asking if I wanted them redirected." His pulse slowed instead of speeding up. Years of investigative work quietly replaced surprise. Redirected. Apparently, they were delivered months ago to an address in Indianapolis. Ethan didn't interrupt. Lauren continued. I figured there had been some mistake. He spoke carefully. I thought Emily brought them to you. The silence this time lasted nearly 5 seconds. Ethan. Her voice became uncertain. I haven't seen Emily since Christmas. He closed his eyes. I thought she came every weekend. What? To take care of you. Another pause. Then Lauren answered with complete confusion. Ethan, I'm not sick. The garage suddenly felt much smaller. Outside, someone continued mowing their lawn. Inside, Ethan's entire understanding of the past 9 months quietly began to collapse. He opened a kitchen drawer that evening, removed a brand new black notebook and wrote one word across the first page. Weekends. Then beneath it he carefully wrote the date of every Saturday Emily had supposedly driven to Cincinnati. He wasn't building a case yet. He was simply refusing to let his memory become stronger than the facts. At the bottom of the page he stopped writing. One detail had suddenly returned to him. 3 weeks earlier, Emily had texted him at exactly 2:17 p.m. I'm sitting outside Lauren's hospital room. Visiting hours are over. For the first time, Ethan wondered whether that message had been sent from somewhere else entirely. Ethan did not sleep much that Sunday night. Not because he was angry. Anger belonged to people who already believed they knew the truth. He wasn't there yet. By 5:30 Monday morning, he was sitting alone at the kitchen table with a legal pad, a black pen, and a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. The notebook labeled Weekends lay open beside him. One page listed every Saturday Emily had supposedly driven to Cincinnati. Another listed every statement Lauren had made during their unexpected phone call. No assumptions, no conclusions, only facts. Emily came downstairs 20 minutes later, wearing gray running clothes. She smiled naturally when she saw him. You're up early. So are you. She leaned over, kissed his forehead, and reached for the coffee maker. I thought I'd go for a run before work. Sounds good. You okay? I didn't sleep much. She looked concerned. Thinking about Lauren? He met her eyes for only a second. I guess so. I'm planning to go again this weekend. I know. She nodded, poured fresh coffee into a travel mug, and disappeared through the front door. Ethan watched from the kitchen window until her white Honda CR-V disappeared around the corner. Only after she was gone did he pick up his phone. He opened their shared banking application. Unlike many married couples, Ethan and Emily maintained both joint and individual checking accounts. Their mortgage utilities, insurance, and household expenses flowed through the joint account. Personal spending came from separate accounts neither of them questioned. Until now. He wasn't looking for evidence of an affair. He was looking for evidence that matched the story. The first review covered only the previous 4 weekends. Gasoline purchases, restaurant charges, hotel expenses, ATM withdrawals. Nothing illegal about reviewing transactions from accounts he legally owned. The joint credit card displayed a familiar pattern. Every Friday evening, Emily filled her gas tank at the same Shell station near Dublin. That made sense. The drive from Columbus to Cincinnati covered roughly 100 miles each way. She would need fuel. Then Ethan noticed something strange. The fuel purchase usually totaled around $32. Yet the odometer on Emily's Honda showed surprisingly low mileage every Monday morning. He couldn't remember exact numbers. Still, something felt wrong. He wrote another note. Check mileage. He continued scrolling. Saturday afternoon. Coffee purchase. Nothing unusual. Sunday morning. Breakfast. Sunday evening. Another fuel purchase. Again normal. Nothing screamed deception. Most lies didn't. His phone buzzed. It was his supervisor, Mark Henderson. Morning, Ethan. You heading in? I'll be there in 20. We've got that Liberty Mutual case waiting. I'll take a look. The office occupied 3 floors inside a modern glass building on East Broad Street in downtown Columbus. Falcon Integrity Solutions employed accountants, former FBI analysts, retired police detectives, digital forensic specialists, and insurance investigators from across Ohio. Everyone hunted different kinds of fraud. Ethan hunted numbers. His office contained almost nothing personal. 1 family photograph, 1 oak bookshelf, 2 computer monitors, stacks of organized case files. His coworkers often joked they had never seen his desk messy. That Monday, however, the spreadsheets on his screen blurred together. For the first time in years, another investigation competed for his attention: his own life. Around lunchtime, Mark knocked lightly on his office door. "You look distracted." "I am." "You want to talk?" Ethan considered it, then shook his head. "Not yet." Mark nodded. "If that changes, my door's open." "Thanks." The conversation lasted less than 30 seconds. It reminded Ethan why he respected his boss. No pressure, no curiosity disguised as concern. Just quiet support. That evening, he stopped at Kroger before driving home. Emily was already cooking dinner. Chicken parmesan, garlic bread. Music played softly through the kitchen speakers. Everything looked exactly like every other Monday. She smiled. "Perfect timing." He placed groceries on the counter. "Smells good." "How was work?" "Busy." She laughed. "When isn't it?" He smiled politely. Nothing about her behavior looked forced. No nervous glances, no hesitation, no overacting. If she was lying, she had become remarkably comfortable doing it. After dinner, Emily carried laundry upstairs while Ethan remained in the living room. His eyes drifted toward the bookshelf beside the fireplace. A framed photograph showed the 4 of them during Thanksgiving 2 years earlier. Ethan, Emily, Lauren, Lauren's husband Chris. Everyone smiling, everyone together. He stared at Lauren's face. Healthy, energetic, no visible signs of illness. Of course, photographs meant little. Still, another inconsistency quietly joined the growing collection. Tuesday evening brought another opportunity. Emily left for a yoga class around 6. Ethan remained home. He walked into the garage, opened a small metal filing cabinet, and removed a plastic storage box containing household records, mortgage statements, insurance policies, vehicle registrations, tax returns, utility bills. Nothing unusual. Then he found monthly credit card statements going back nearly 2 years. He carried them into the kitchen. 1 month, then another, then another. Instead of reading every line, Ethan searched only Saturdays and Sundays. Patterns mattered more than isolated transactions. October, November, December, January, February, March, April. His pen moved steadily across the notebook. Shell, Starbucks, Shell, ATM, restaurant, fuel, hotel. He suddenly stopped writing. Hotel. There it was again. Not every weekend, only occasionally. The merchant description was brief. Horizon Suites. He frowned. There wasn't a Horizon Suites anywhere near the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. He searched online. The closest match appeared nearly 100 miles away. Indianapolis. His heartbeat slowed. Professional habit replaced emotion once more. Never trust memory. Verify. He searched another month's statement, another hotel, same chain, same city, different weekend, another, again, Indianapolis, not Cincinnati. He leaned back in his chair. Emily had never mentioned Indianapolis once. Not for work, not for family, not for vacations. Yet the same hotel chain appeared repeatedly over 7 months. Maybe she had accidentally used the wrong card. Possible. Maybe someone cloned the credit card. Possible. Maybe the merchant processing location differed from the actual hotel. Possible. Every explanation remained possible, which meant none of them qualified as facts. He wrote another line. Verify merchant addresses. Wednesday afternoon, Ethan quietly called the credit card customer service department during his lunch break. The representative confirmed the merchant locations. Every hotel charge originated in downtown Indianapolis. Not Cincinnati, not Columbus, Indianapolis. He thanked her and ended the call. Still no conclusions. Only another verified fact. That evening, Emily sat beside him on the couch, watching a home renovation show. She laughed when a contractor accidentally demolished the wrong interior wall. Ethan laughed too, or at least he sounded like he did. His mind remained somewhere else. If Emily had driven to Indianapolis instead of Cincinnati, the distance increased by nearly 70 additional miles, enough to require more gasoline, enough to explain the fuel purchases, enough to make the entire story collapse. Thursday morning, Ethan arrived at work before sunrise. He logged into databases unavailable outside Falcon's secure network. Not to search Emily. He refused to misuse company resources. Instead, he opened mapping software used during insurance investigations. He manually entered every confirmed transaction: gas station, coffee shop, hotel, restaurant, ATM. Colored pins appeared across the Midwest, one by one. When he finished, he leaned closer to the monitor. The map revealed something impossible to ignore. Almost every weekend transaction clustered within a 5-mile radius of downtown Indianapolis. Not scattered randomly, not spread across the city. Concentrated, repeatedly. People formed habits, fraud formed patterns. Friday evening arrived. Emily packed her gray overnight bag once again. She placed medication into a side pocket, chargers into another. She zipped the suitcase shut. "I'll leave around 7 tomorrow." Ethan nodded. "Tell Lauren I hope she's feeling stronger." "I will." She smiled gently. "She always asks about you." Ethan looked at her for one quiet moment. Then he simply said, "I'm glad." That night after Emily fell asleep, he walked silently downstairs. He opened the notebook. Below every verified transaction, he carefully added one final line. Parking garage, Saturday, March 16th, 2:17 p.m. The timestamp matched the exact minute Emily had texted him. "I'm sitting outside Lauren's hospital room. Visiting hours are over." He stared at the page for several seconds. Then he searched the parking receipt number online. The garage wasn't attached to any hospital. It belonged to a luxury residential complex in downtown Indianapolis. For the first time since Lauren's phone call, Ethan felt certainty beginning to replace doubt. Someone had been waiting for Emily there, and whoever it was, they had become part of a lie far bigger than a sick sister. Saturday arrived beneath a pale gray sky. At exactly 6:53 a.m., Emily walked downstairs carrying the same gray overnight bag she had packed the night before. She wore a navy sweatshirt, black leggings, and white running shoes. Her hair was tied into a loose ponytail, and she looked exactly like a woman preparing for another emotionally exhausting weekend beside an ill family member. Ethan stood at the kitchen island making coffee. "You'll probably hit rain south of Dayton," he said after glancing at the weather on his phone. She smiled. "I'll be careful." He handed her a travel mug. "For the road." "You're the best." She'd kissed him lightly. The kiss lingered no longer than usual. There was no hesitation. No guilt visible in her expression, at least none that Ethan could see. 7 minutes later, her Honda disappeared around the corner. He waited another 5 minutes before reaching for his own phone. Instead of following her himself, he dialed a number he had not used in nearly 3 years. The call connected after the second ring. "Mitchell Investigative Services?" "Good morning. This is Ethan Carter." There was a brief pause. "Ethan, it's been a while." The voice belonged to Olivia Mitchell, a licensed private investigator based in Columbus. They had worked together on several insurance fraud cases years earlier. Olivia specialized in surveillance, witness interviews, and legal evidence collection. She had once spent 11 consecutive days documenting a staged construction accident that eventually saved an insurance company nearly $2 million. More importantly, Ethan trusted her judgment. "I need your help." "You sound serious." "I am." "Business?" "Personal?" Another pause. "I'll meet you wherever you want." By 8, They sat inside a quiet booth at a First Watch restaurant near Polaris Parkway. Olivia listened without interrupting. Ethan described Lauren's phone call, the bank statements, the hotel charges, the parking garage, the notebook. When he finished, Olivia folded her hands. "You haven't confronted your wife?" "No." "Why?" "Because I don't know enough." She studied him for several seconds. "Most husbands would have driven straight to Indianapolis." "I'm not most husbands." "No." She nodded slowly. "I remember. Years earlier, Ethan had once spent 4 months investigating a suspected embezzlement scheme because one decimal point refused to make sense. The case eventually uncovered nearly $18 million in fraudulent billing. He wasn't patient because patience sounded noble. He was patient because rushing usually destroyed evidence. Olivia slid a business card across the table. "If we do this, we do it legally." "Of course." "No GPS trackers." "I know." "No illegal recordings." "I know." "No entering private property." "I know." She smiled faintly. "I figured you did." An hour later, they signed a formal surveillance agreement. Everything documented, everything legal, everything admissible if necessary. Olivia's team consisted of 3 investigators spread across central Ohio and Indiana. Their assignment was straightforward. Observe, photograph, document. Nothing more. No confrontation, no interference, no assumptions. Saturday afternoon crawled by. Ethan repaired a loose cabinet hinge in the laundry room, changed the furnace filter, cut the backyard grass. Every task felt strangely mechanical. His hand stayed busy while his thoughts remained disciplined. At 5:18 p.m., his phone vibrated. Unknown notification. Secure client portal. 1 new report available. He opened it immediately. Observation log. 08:02 a.m. Subject departed residence. Vehicle white Honda CR-V. Direction Interstate 70 West. Not Interstate 71 South. Ethan stared at the sentence. Interstate 70. Toward Indianapolis. Not Cincinnati. He continued reading. 09:56 a.m. Subject entered downtown Indianapolis. 10:11 a.m. Vehicle parked inside Meridian Tower residential garage. Photographs attached. He opened the first image. Emily's Honda sat beneath fluorescent parking lights. The garage sign clearly displayed its address. Meridian Tower Residences, Indianapolis, Indiana. He enlarged the timestamp. 10:11:43 a.m. Verified? The second photograph showed Emily walking towards the elevator carrying her overnight bag. She wasn't hurrying. She looked comfortable, like someone arriving home. The final photograph from that morning froze Ethan's attention. Emily removed a key fob from her purse. Not a visitor parking ticket. Not an intercom call. A resident access key. She pressed it against an electronic reader. The security light flashed green. The elevator doors opened immediately. Residents only. Ethan closed the report. His breathing remained steady. The first undeniable fact had arrived. Emily wasn't visiting someone. She possessed authorized access to the building. Late that evening, another report appeared. 7:46 p.m. Subject exited elevator accompanied by unidentified white male. Approximate age mid-40s. Height 6'1", dark hair, gray sport coat. No physical contact observed. Both entered nearby Italian restaurant. Photographs attached. Ethan hesitated before opening them. The man looked confident. Professionally dressed. Expensive watch. Polished shoes. Nothing immediately remarkable, except one detail. When the restaurant hostess greeted them, Emily laughed. Not politely, naturally. It was the same laugh Ethan heard at home while watching television together. He studied the photograph longer than he intended. The unidentified man held the restaurant door open for her. She didn't reach for it herself. Small gesture. Meaningless by itself. Meaningful when combined with everything else. He enlarged another image. They sat across from one another beside a window. Wine glasses, dinner menus, conversation. No obvious romance. No hand-holding. No kiss. Nothing dramatic. Professional colleagues could have looked exactly the same. Again. One photograph proved almost nothing. Patterns proved everything. Sunday morning brought more documentation. 14 a.m. Subject and unidentified male exited Meridian Tower carrying coffee cups, walked approximately 1 mile along the Indianapolis Canal Walk. Conversation appeared relaxed. Several photographs. Again, nothing intimate. No embraces, no obvious affair. Only two people who clearly knew one another well. By noon, they returned to the building. Emily remained inside until nearly 5 o'clock. Then she drove back toward Columbus. Exactly as she had every weekend. Sunday evening, she arrived home at 7:41. Ethan stood outside cleaning sawdust from his workshop floor. She stepped out carrying a bakery box. "I brought cinnamon rolls." He smiled. "Thanks." Lauren barely ate anything. Ethan accepted the box. The bakery sticker read, "Taylor's Bakery, Indianapolis." She didn't notice, or perhaps she never looked. He quietly placed the box on the kitchen counter. They ate dinner together. Emily described hospital nurses, medication adjustments, long conversations with doctors. Every sentence sounded calm, practiced, specific. None of it matched reality. Ethan no longer listened for emotion. He listened for details that could later be verified. Monday afternoon, Olivia called. "I have something else." "I'm listening." "We followed her again after she left the condominium yesterday." "Okay." "She stopped at a FedEx office." "What for?" "We couldn't see the contents." "But she mailed a large envelope by overnight delivery." "Destination?" "Cleveland." Ethan wrote it down. "Anything else?" "The unidentified male never left Indianapolis." "You ran him?" "Not yet." "Why?" Olivia laughed softly. "Because there are about 400 men in Indiana who look exactly like him." "Fair point. We'll identify him." "I know you will." Tuesday evening, another message appeared inside the secure portal. Positive identification pending. Vehicle registration obtained. Black BMW 540i, registered to Brooks Strategic Holdings, LLC, Indianapolis, Indiana. Business registration attached. Ethan downloaded the documents. Brooks Strategic Holdings. Investment consulting? Commercial acquisitions? Private asset management? He had never heard the company name before. The listed managing member was someone named Daniel Brooks, the same surname as the registered owner. Probably the unidentified man. Ethan searched publicly available corporate filings. Nothing immediately suspicious. The company existed legally. Active status, registered office, business license current. Again, nothing illegal. Yet. He closed his laptop. Outside rain tapped softly against the living room windows. Emily sat upstairs participating in a video conference with her marketing team. She sounded cheerful, professional, completely unaware that every weekend she had invented over the previous 9 months was slowly being replaced by documented facts. Wednesday morning, Olivia called again. "I think we've got our guy." "Daniel Brooks." "Yes." "What do we know?" "Successful investment consultant on paper." "And off paper?" "I don't know yet." "You sound unconvinced." "I am." "Why?" "Because successful consultants usually don't meet the same married woman inside a private residential tower every single weekend. Ethan remained silent. Olivia continued. "And there's something else." "What?" "The condominium." "What about it?" "It isn't rented." "It isn't, no." She paused. "It was purchased outright." "When?" "About 11 months ago." "Owner." Another brief silence followed. "That's the interesting part." Ethan gripped the phone tighter. "The owner isn't Daniel Brooks." "Who is it?" "The property records show the condominium belongs to a limited liability company." "What company?" Olivia took a slow breath before answering. Midwest Horizon Ventures. Ethan wrote the name carefully inside his notebook, then circled it once. He had never heard of Midwest Horizon Ventures, but instinct told him he would soon become very familiar with it. By Thursday afternoon, Ethan's notebook had grown thicker, not because he had filled it with theories, because every page contained another verified fact: addresses, dates, times, receipts, corporate filings, photographs. He had learned years ago that the truth rarely appeared in dramatic moments. It accumulated quietly, one documented detail at a time, until denial became impossible. At Falcon Integrity Solutions, he spent the morning reviewing a staged warehouse fire involving fraudulent insurance claims. While another investigator focused on witness interviews, Ethan reconstructed 18 months of financial transfers between contractors, suppliers, and shell vendors. Near noon, he found himself staring at a familiar pattern. 3 different companies, 1 mailing address, different owners, the same accountant. He closed the file. The coincidence reminded him of Midwest Horizon Ventures, a company he had never heard of until yesterday. During lunch, he opened Ohio and Indiana public business records on his personal phone. Midwest Horizon Ventures, LLC, registered in Indiana 11 months earlier. Principal business address, Meridian Tower, Indianapolis. Registered agent, Foster Legal Services. Managing member, redacted. That immediately caught his attention. Most legitimate LLC filings listed at least one public organizer or manager. This one disclosed almost nothing beyond what Indiana law required. Legal, but unusually private. He wrote another note. Find attorney. At 2 o'clock, Olivia called. I've got movement. What kind of so? I pulled property tax records. And Midwest Horizon Ventures owns more than the condominium. How many properties? 5. Ethan remained silent. Olivia continued. 1 condo. 1 office suite, 2 warehouse units, and a small commercial building on the east side of Indianapolis. Purchased recently. Within 10 months. Cash. Every one of them. Cash purchases. No mortgages. No financing. Millions of dollars in real estate acquired in less than a year. Possible, certainly. Ordinary? Not remotely. What business generates that kind of cash? Ethan asked quietly. I was hoping you'd tell me. After hanging up, Ethan leaned back in his office chair. Something no longer fit. If Emily had been involved in an affair, expensive dinners and weekends away would explain the deception. Secret real estate companies would not. That evening, she returned home carrying 2 grocery bags. Your favorite chili tonight? He smiled. I appreciate that. While she chopped onions in the kitchen, Ethan watched from the dining table. She moved confidently, comfortably. Every action looked natural. Nothing suggested she feared discovery, which meant one of 2 things. Either she believed her lies were perfect, or she believed Ethan would never question them. Neither possibility made him angry. Both made him careful. After dinner, she excused herself to answer a phone call upstairs. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. When she returned, Ethan casually asked, "Everything okay?" She nodded. "Just work." "What project?" "A software rollout." "For Cleveland?" "Yes." No hesitation, no pause. He simply nodded. Later that night, after Emily had fallen asleep, Ethan sat in the living room with his laptop. Instead of searching her emails or invading her privacy, he searched public court databases. Daniel Brooks, Indiana, investment, consultant. Dozens of results appeared. Most involved ordinary commercial filings, business disputes, property transfers, nothing criminal. 1 civil lawsuit from 6 years earlier attracted his attention. A retired physician had accused Brooks Strategic Holdings of misrepresenting an investment partnership. The case settled privately before trial. No admission of wrongdoing. Again, nothing illegal proven. But Ethan disliked patterns involving repeated civil disputes. Friday morning brought another surprise. Olivia called before 8. I identified the attorney. Foster Legal Services. Yes. Who runs it? Rachel Foster. Any connection to Daniel Brooks? Professional. How professional? She formed 7 companies for him over the last 3 years. Ethan wrote down every company name Olivia read aloud. Brooks Strategic Holdings, Midwest Horizon Ventures, Northbridge Asset Group, Silver Oak Development, Prairie Ridge Capital. 3 others, different names, different purposes, same attorney, same organizer. He thanked Olivia, then spent the next hour researching each company. Individually, they appeared ordinary. Collectively, something looked engineered. Real estate, consulting, asset management, commercial leasing, private investment. Every entity touched money from a different direction. Experienced investigators often compared financial crime to plumbing hidden inside walls. One pipe rarely revealed much. The entire system revealed everything. Saturday arrived. Emily packed her overnight bag again. I'll probably stay later tomorrow. Lauren having a rough weekend. She's exhausted. I understand. She smiled gratefully. I don't know what I'd do without you. Those words lingered long after she left. Ethan wasn't thinking about betrayal anymore. He was thinking about performance. She had become remarkably skilled at combining truth with fiction. Lauren did exist. Hospitals did exist. Cancer patients existed. Compassion existed. Only her story didn't. At precisely 8 o'clock, Olivia's surveillance team resumed observation. By noon, Ethan received another secure report. Emily arrived at Meridian Tower. Daniel Brooks met her in the lobby instead of upstairs. Both entered the attached office suites on the 2nd floor rather than the residential elevators. Interesting. The investigator photographed them carrying document boxes. Not shopping bags, not overnight luggage, cardboard file boxes. At 1:42 p.m., another photograph arrived. Daniel unlocked Suite 204. Brooks Strategic Holdings. The office occupied the same building as the condominium. Residential floors above, business offices below. Convenient, efficient, private. 3 hours later, new photographs appeared. Emily stood beside a conference table covered with paperwork. 5 other people occupied the room. 2 women, 3 men, business attire, laptops open, presentation screen active. No romance. No intimate behavior. It looked exactly like a corporate meeting. Ethan enlarged the images. One photograph showed Emily distributing folders. Another showed Daniel speaking while pointing toward projected financial charts. His stomach tightened. This wasn't simply an affair. Emily had been participating in something organized, something recurring. Sunday morning brought the most important report yet. At 10:16 a.m., Daniel and Emily left the office carrying only one folder. Instead of returning upstairs, they walked 3 blocks to a downtown branch of Huntington National Bank. Olivia's investigator documented their entrance. They remained inside 43 minutes. Upon leaving, Daniel carried nothing. Emily carried nothing. No visible envelopes, no briefcase. Nothing. Banks rarely allowed photography inside. The surveillance ended respectfully at the entrance. Still, 43 minutes suggested more than depositing a check. That afternoon, Ethan quietly called his attorney. Not a divorce lawyer. Rachel Morrison specialized in financial litigation and corporate fraud. They had worked together twice before on insurance recovery cases. She answered immediately. Ethan, do you have an hour tomorrow? I can make one. I need confidential advice. Personal. Yes. I'll clear my schedule. Monday morning, Ethan arrived at Rachel's downtown office carrying only his notebook. He spoke for nearly 40 minutes, never exaggerating, never speculating. He handed her copies of photographs, bank records, corporate filings, observation logs. She read everything carefully. Finally, she looked up. "You've handled this remarkably well." "I don't feel remarkable." "No?" She smiled sympathetically. "I imagine you don't. What do you think?" "I think you should continue exactly what you're doing. No confrontation." "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because right now you have questions. And if this involves only infidelity, confrontation ends a marriage." She tapped the stack of documents. "If this involves financial misconduct, confrontation destroys evidence." Ethan nodded slowly. "I thought you'd say that." Rachel leaned forward. "One question." "I'm listening." "Has your wife ever asked you to sign business documents?" He thought carefully. "Not that I remember." "Investment paperwork?" "No." "Loan applications?" "No." She remained quiet, then asked one more question. "Has anything arrived in the mail recently that looked unfamiliar?" His mind immediately returned to several overnight envelopes Emily had intercepted during the past few months. At the time, he hadn't thought anything about it. Now, "I'm not sure." Rachel closed the notebook. "Pay attention. To the mail. To everything." "What am I looking for?" She hesitated. "Sometimes financial crimes don't begin by stealing money." "What do they begin with?" "They begin by borrowing someone's identity." Those words stayed with Ethan the entire drive home. That evening, he checked the household mailbox before Emily returned from work. Mostly advertisements, utility bill, property tax notice, one white envelope from Huntington National Bank, addressed jointly, Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Carter. Emily arrived while he was still standing in the driveway. "Oh," she said casually. "I'll grab the mail." She reached for the envelope a little too quickly, just a fraction of a second. Almost invisible. Almost. But after 15 years studying discipline, Ethan noticed even the smallest changes in routine. He handed her the stack without saying a word. As she walked inside, the Huntington envelope disappeared beneath the others. He didn't know what it contained. Not yet. But for the first time, he no longer believed the weekends were hiding only another relationship. They were hiding money. And somewhere inside those transactions, Ethan was beginning to suspect that his own name had already been used without his knowledge. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. It looked ordinary, white, standard business size. The return address belonged to Huntington National Bank's Corporate Processing Center in Columbus. Emily picked it up from the kitchen counter before Ethan had even removed his jacket. "I'll open the mail while you change," she said. A simple sentence, perfectly normal. Yet Ethan noticed something he had never seen before. She separated that envelope from the others without looking twice. Utility bill, advertisement, grocery coupon. Everything else remained on the counter. The Huntington envelope disappeared into her home office upstairs. 5 minutes later, she came back, carrying nothing. "What was it?" Ethan asked casually, while pouring water into a glass. "Oh," she shrugged. "Just some promotional banking offer." He nodded. "Anything important?" "No." She smiled and began preparing dinner. The conversation ended there, not because Ethan believed her, because he had learned that liars often revealed more by continuing to speak than by being questioned. The following morning began with another meeting at Rachel Morrison's law office. Rachel had spent the previous evening reviewing every document Ethan had provided. When he arrived, a yellow legal pad already covered her desk. "I made a timeline." She slid it toward him. "Every Saturday, every surveillance report, every verified financial transaction, every corporate filing, neatly organized." Rachel tapped one particular section. "Something bothers me." "What?" "The timing." "Explain." "Midwest Horizon Ventures was formed 11 months ago." Ethan nodded. "Emily's weekend trip started about 9 months ago." Right, Rachel continued. The condominium was purchased almost immediately after the LLC formed. And she leaned back. That's an unusually fast sequence. You think the company already had funding? I think someone expected money before the business even existed. Ethan remained silent. Rachel picked up another page. Which brings me to this. She pointed toward Brooks Strategic Holdings. Investment consulting companies usually attract capital through documented investors. Agreed. So where did the startup cash originate? I don't know. Neither do I. She closed the file. But we're going to find out. Before Ethan left, Rachel gave him one instruction. Freeze your credit. He looked surprised. My credit today. You think someone applied for loans? I don't know. But if someone has access to your personal information, freezing your credit costs nothing and prevents surprises. By lunchtime, Ethan had contacted all three major credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. His credit reports showed no new loans, no unexplained mortgages, no unauthorized credit cards. Relief lasted less than an hour. At exactly 2:17 p.m., his cell phone rang. Huntington National Bank Fraud Prevention. He answered immediately. This is Ethan Carter. Mr. Carter, we're calling to verify a recent identity confirmation request. His pulse slowed. What request? Our records show documentation was submitted updating ownership verification for one of your banking relationships. I don't understand. Can you verify your mailing address? Ethan answered carefully. The representative continued. Thank you. There appears to be conflicting documentation on file. What kind of documentation? I'm afraid I can't discuss details over the phone. Can I visit a branch? Yes. We recommend doing so. Today, if possible. 20 minutes later, Ethan sat inside Huntington's Dublin branch across from Assistant Branch Manager Melissa Grant. She reviewed his identification carefully, then frowned. Mr. Carter. Yes. I think there may have been an administrative mistake. What kind? She turned her monitor slightly toward herself. I can't display certain records. I understand. But I can tell you an account exists that requires additional verification. I don't recognize the account. She looked surprised. You've never seen it? No. It's listed under your tax identification information. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. What type of account? I'll need approval before discussing that. She disappeared into another office. Several minutes passed. When she returned, the branch manager accompanied her. His nameplate read, Stephen Alvarez. He introduced himself politely before sitting down. Mr. Carter, thank you for coming in. I gather something isn't right. I believe there has been a misunderstanding involving ownership documentation. What documentation? Stephen folded his hands. Warns. Did you own an interest in a company called Midwest Horizon Ventures? Ethan answered without hesitation. No. Stephen looked genuinely puzzled. Our records indicate someone submitted paperwork identifying you as a beneficial owner. Silence filled the office. Ethan spoke carefully. I've never signed anything connected to that company. Stephen nodded slowly. I was hoping you'd say that. Ethan looked directly at him. Why? Because the signature doesn't resemble the one on your banking profile. Every muscle in Ethan's shoulders became still. May I see it? I'm afraid not. Why? Federal banking regulations. Stephen paused. But I can tell you what happens next. I'm listening. Our fraud department will review the submission. When? Immediately. Who submitted it? I can't disclose that. Can you tell me when it was submitted? Stephen checked the screen. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Exactly the period when Emily had intercepted several overnight envelopes from the mailbox. Ethan thanked both employees before leaving. He did not call Emily. He did not call Olivia. He drove instead to Rachel Morrison's office. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked only one question. "Did they say beneficial owner?" "Yes." Rachel opened a legal reference book. "That's significant." "Why?" "Beneficial ownership disclosures identify who actually controls financial assets. I've never controlled anything." "I know." She looked directly at him. "Which means somebody wanted the bank to believe you did." "Why use my name?" "Because your financial background is clean. His years investigating insurance fraud had produced excellent credit-stable employment and an impeccable financial reputation. Exactly the type of identity banks trusted." Rachel continued. "If someone wanted legitimacy, they'd borrow credibility." Exactly. The realization settled heavily between them. Emily hadn't simply lied about weekends. Someone had used Ethan's reputation as financial camouflage. That evening, Olivia requested an urgent meeting. She spread new surveillance photographs across the conference table. Daniel Brooks appeared in each one. So did Emily. But neither photograph captured Ethan's attention. A third person did. Middle-aged, expensive navy suit, silver hair, briefcase. "Who's he?" Ethan asked. "We're still identifying him." "What makes him important?" Olivia slid another photograph forward. The three entered Foster Legal Services together. 94 minutes later, they left, carrying several sealed document tubes, corporate paperwork, property transfers, or something else. "We followed the older man afterward," Olivia said. "Where did he go?" "Huntington National Bank, the same branch, downtown Indianapolis." He remained inside nearly an hour. Ethan stared at the photograph. Coincidences existed. Patterns existed too. He trusted patterns. Friday afternoon, another discovery arrived. Olivia had identified the older man. Charles Winfield, certified public accountant, specialized in corporate restructuring, represented dozens of privately held companies throughout Indiana. No criminal history, no disciplinary action. Professional reputation appeared spotless. Yet over the previous 3 years, he had served as accountant for every company connected to Daniel Brooks. Every one. Rachel reviewed the information immediately. "They're organized." "You think it's larger than Daniel?" "I think Daniel isn't working alone." Saturday morning, Emily left for Indianapolis again. This time, Ethan barely watched her drive away. His attention focused elsewhere. Rachel had arranged for a forensic document examiner to review publicly obtainable signatures connected to Midwest Horizon Ventures. If forged paperwork existed, the handwriting expert might identify inconsistencies. Late Saturday afternoon, the examiner called. "I've completed my preliminary comparison. And there are differences." "Meaning?" "The questioned signature appears to imitate yours." Ethan closed his eyes briefly. "Imitate?" "Yes." "Is it a forgery?" "I'd need the original documents before making a definitive conclusion. But the writing contains multiple signs of simulation." "Confidence level?" "High." When the call ended, Ethan stared through the living room window as rain fell across the backyard. Someone had practiced writing his name. Not casually, carefully, patiently. Enough to convince a bank employee processing paperwork. Enough to attach his identity to a company he had never heard of. His phone vibrated again. Another secure message from Olivia. Only one sentence appeared beneath the latest surveillance photographs. Daniel Brooks and Emily Carter met with accountant Charles Winfield inside Suite 204 today. Observed document exchange. One folder clearly labeled Beneficial Ownership Amendment. Ethan looked at the message for several long seconds. He no longer needed to wonder whether his name had entered their business. It already had. The only remaining question was how deeply they had buried it. Ethan had spent 15 years teaching junior investigators one simple rule: never ask a question if the documents are about to answer it. By the beginning of the following week, his documents were finally beginning to speak. Rachel Morrison called just after 8 Monday morning. The forensic examiner sent the full report. Ethan closed the file he had been reviewing at work. "I'm on my way." 25 minutes later, he sat across from Rachel inside her conference room. The handwriting analysis occupied nearly 40 pages. Magnified comparisons, stroke angles, pressure patterns, letter spacing, natural writing rhythm. The examiner pointed to Ethan's authentic signature first. Fluid, confident, consistent. Then came the questioned signature attached to the beneficial ownership paperwork. At first glance, they looked identical. Looking closer changed everything. The capital E hesitated slightly before the second stroke. The lowercase h contained a microscopic pause. The final Carter ended with heavier pressure than Ethan naturally used. The examiner's conclusion appeared at the bottom of the final page. Highly probable simulated signature, not absolute, but close enough to justify a criminal investigation if original documents became available. Rachel closed the report. "I've seen this before." Ethan looked up. "How often?" "More than people realize." "Identity theft." She shook her head. "Not exactly." "What then?" "Identity borrowing." He frowned. "Explain." "Someone doesn't necessarily steal your entire identity. They borrow enough of it to make themselves appear trustworthy." She folded her hands. "In your case, they borrowed my reputation." "Exactly. A spotless credit history, stable employment, professional licensing, verified income. Every characteristic that made banks comfortable." Ethan understood immediately. If Brooks wanted investors, lenders, or financial institutions to trust a newly formed company attaching Ethan's name, even secretly would provide credibility. He had become collateral without knowing it. Rachel handed him another document. "I also made a few phone calls." "To whom?" "Former federal prosecutors." His attention sharpened. "What did they say? They advised patience." "That seems to be everyone's advice." "Because it's correct." She leaned forward. "If we notify the wrong person too early, evidence disappears." "Then what?" "We keep collecting." That afternoon, Olivia called from Indianapolis. "I have something." "What happened?" "We identified another company." Ethan waited. "Northbridge Asset Group." "I've heard the name." "You should." "Why?" "It shares office space with Brooks Strategic Holdings. Same building. Same hallway. Same employees." "Sometimes," Olivia continued. "We've also confirmed something unusual." "What?" "Mail." "What about it?" "Packages arrive almost every day." "Business documents." "Maybe. But they never stay." "What do you mean?" "A courier picks them up within hours." "Destination?" "We've only followed one." "And?" "It went to a commercial warehouse. Owned by Midwest Horizon Ventures. Warehouse, office, condominium, investment company, real estate company, everything connected. Everything feeding into something larger." That evening, Ethan reviewed every corporate filing again. This time he ignored names. He focused on dates. Brooks Strategic Holdings, 3 years old. Northbridge Asset Group, 2 years. Silver Oak Development, 18 months. Midwest Horizon Ventures, 11 months. Every company appeared after the previous one, like stepping stones, building towards something. Then one date stopped him. Midwest Horizon Ventures formed exactly 12 days before Emily first mentioned Lauren's illness. He stared at the calendar. Coincidence possible. Meaningful increasingly likely. Tuesday afternoon brought another development. Rachel called. "I received permission." "For what?" To speak confidentially with Huntington's legal department. What did they tell you? Very little. But enough. She paused. The beneficial ownership paperwork wasn't submitted in person. It wasn't. No. It arrived by overnight courier. Ethan immediately remembered Olivia's surveillance photographs. Emily mailing large envelopes through FedEx. When? Rachel read from her notes. 3 weeks ago. The same week. The same timing. Another piece settled into place. Wednesday morning, Ethan arrived at Falcon earlier than usual. He intended to finish several insurance files before noon. Instead, Mark Henderson knocked gently on his office door. You've looked distracted for days. I know. You still don't want to talk. Ethan hesitated, then answered. My wife may be involved in something. Mark remained quiet. I don't know exactly what. Do you need time off? Not yet? If you do, I appreciate it. Mark turned toward the hallway before stopping. One thing. What? I've watched investigators ruin good cases. How? They started believing their own theories. Then he left. The reminder stayed with Ethan all morning. Theories could wait. Evidence could not. Late Wednesday afternoon, Olivia requested another secure meeting. She spread fresh surveillance photographs across the conference table. Daniel Brooks appeared again. Emily appeared again. Charles Winfield appeared again. But another face had joined them. Young, late 20s, dark hair, business casual clothing, laptop backpack. Who's this? Ethan asked. We identified him yesterday. Olivia handed over another folder. Ryan Keller. Certified Information Technology Consultant. Independent cybersecurity contractor. Previous clients included banks, medical practices, investment firms, no criminal record, excellent professional references. What does an IT consultant have to do with investment companies? Olivia answered quietly. We're trying to figure that out. The photographs showed Ryan entering Suite 204 carrying computer equipment. He remained inside nearly 6 hours. When he exited, he carried nothing. The equipment stayed behind. Thursday morning, another report arrived. Ryan Keller returned. This time, surveillance captured him removing old desktop computers from Brooks Strategic Holdings, replacing them with new encrypted servers, professional upgrade, expensive equipment, nothing illegal. Still, investment consulting companies usually didn't rebuild secure server infrastructure overnight, not unless something important depended on digital records. Thursday evening, Ethan found Emily sitting alone on the back patio watching the sunset. She looked peaceful, almost tired. He joined her. Long day. She smiled. Always? For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Emily reached for his hand. I'm lucky to have you. He looked toward the fading sunlight instead of her face. Why do you say that? You've never made me choose. Choose what? My family or our marriage? He answered honestly. I never thought I had to. She squeezed his hand gently. Neither spoke again. For the first time since Lauren's phone call, Ethan felt something unexpected. Sadness. Not because he missed the woman Emily had become, because he missed the woman he believed she had been. Friday afternoon, another unexpected visitor appeared in Rachel Morrison's office. Former Assistant United States Attorney Benjamin Hale, recently retired, now consulting on complex financial fraud. Rachel introduced them. Ben owes me a favor. Benjamin smiled. Apparently you've collected quite a file. Ethan summarized everything. Benjamin listened carefully before asking only practical questions. No accusations made. No. Original documents preserved. Yes. Chain of custody. Every photograph. Good. Benjamin nodded approvingly. You've avoided the biggest mistake. What mistake? Alerting them. He leaned back. If this grows into federal wire fraud, bank fraud, or identity fraud, he tapped the notebook. Silence is your greatest advantage. Ethan asked the question that had been bothering him for days. Do you think Emily knows? Benjamin considered the question. I don't know. You've seen cases like this. I have. What do you think? I think people often understand less than investigators assume. He continued carefully. Someone may recruit another person to handle paperwork, or meetings, or mail. They don't always explain the entire operation. That possibility unsettled Ethan. What if Emily believed she was helping Daniel Brooks build legitimate businesses? What if she had lied only about the weekends? Then another thought followed immediately. No. She had watched someone forge his signature, or participated in delivering forged paperwork. Whatever she believed, she had crossed too many lines. Saturday morning, Olivia's surveillance resumed. By noon, she called unexpectedly. You need to hear this. What happened? Daniel canceled today's office meeting. Why? I don't know. Where is everyone? Different locations. Emily remained inside the condominium. Charles Winfield visited the warehouse. Ryan Keller drove to Chicago before sunrise. Daniel Brooks? Olivia paused. He's at the airport. Leaving. We think so. Destination, quote, unknown. Ethan's instincts sharpened immediately. Criminals moved. Money moved. Evidence moved. He looked out the window as dark clouds gathered over Columbus. Something had changed. He didn't know what. But after weeks of identical routines, the organization had suddenly broken its own pattern. And experienced investigators understood exactly what that usually meant. Someone inside the operation had become nervous. Sunday morning arrived without the usual surveillance report. For nearly 3 hours, Ethan heard nothing from Olivia. He told himself that silence meant nothing. Investigations contained delays, traffic, equipment failures, subjects changing schedules. Yet every few minutes his eyes drifted toward his phone, lying face down on the kitchen table. Emily had already left before sunrise. She had kissed him on the cheek. Lauren had a rough night? I'll probably stay until after dinner. He had nodded exactly as he always did. Drive safely. Now the house felt strangely empty. At 10:43 a.m., Olivia finally called out. We lost them. Ethan remained calm. For how long? About 28 minutes. Where? Underground parking. Meridian Tower. No. She sounded frustrated. They drove into a private loading garage beneath one of the warehouses. The Midwest Horizon warehouse. Yes. When they came back out, she hesitated. There were 2 additional vehicles. Different drivers. Yes. Could you identify anyone? Not clearly. Ethan wrote every detail into his notebook. Anything else? The warehouse stayed active almost 6 hours. Deliveries. No. Then what? People. She continued. We counted 14 different individuals entering. Employees. Possibly. Customers. Maybe. No delivery trucks. None. Warehouses without shipments. Investment companies without investors. Weekend meetings inside privately owned buildings. Nothing about the pattern resembled ordinary business operations. Monday afternoon brought another breakthrough. Rachel Morrison called while Ethan was reviewing a fraud claim involving forged invoices. I received a subpoena response. So quickly, though, not a subpoena. What then? A voluntary production. From who? Huntington. His pulse slowed. What did they send? Not everything, but enough. 30 minutes later, Ethan sat inside Rachel's office again. Several sealed envelopes rested across the conference table. Rachel removed one carefully. The bank can't release account balances. I understand. But they did confirm document history. She slid forward a printed timeline. Account established. Ownership amended. Beneficial owner updated. Authorized representative added. Each change contained a date. Each date matched one of Emily's Indianapolis weekends. Ethan studied the sequence. October, November, January, March, April. No random timing. Every corporate change occurred during the exact weekends Emily claimed she was visiting Lauren. Rachel pointed toward one line. This interests me. Authorized representative added. Date, March 16th. The same Saturday Emily had texted him from the supposedly quiet hospital hallway. What does that mean? Ethan asked. It means someone gained authority. To do what? Rachel answered carefully. Depending on the account, access funds, sign documents, transfer ownership, approve transactions. She paused. The title varies, but authority is always valuable. Ethan looked at the page again. My name isn't listed. No. Daniel? Yes. Emily? Rachel shook her head. No. So why involve her? Rachel folded her hands. I've been asking myself that. Later that evening, Olivia arrived unexpectedly at Rachel's office carrying another folder. I wanted you both to see this together. She spread photographs across the table. Most showed ordinary activity around Brooks Strategic Holdings. One image immediately stood out. Daniel Brooks standing beside a whiteboard. Corporate charts covered the wall behind him. Normally, the writing would have been impossible to read. This time, however, Olivia's photographer had captured the room through an open doorway using a long telephoto lens. The image wasn't perfect, but one word remained readable. Acquisition. Below it appeared 4 company names. 3 Ethan already recognized. The 4th was unfamiliar. Carter Family Holdings. He stared silently. Rachel leaned closer. Zoom in. Olivia enlarged the digital image. There it was. Carter Family Holdings. Not Carter Holdings, not Carter Financial, Carter Family Holdings. Ethan looked at Rachel. I've never formed that company. I know. Olivia quietly added another document. Indiana Secretary of State search results. No company currently existed under that exact name, which meant one of 2 things. Either the company had not yet been registered, or someone planned to create it, using his family name. Tuesday morning, Ethan made another decision. He informed Mark Henderson that he needed several personal days. Mark approved the request immediately. No questions. Thank you. If you need anything. I know. Driving away from Falcon's headquarters felt strange. Work had always provided structure. Now his full attention belonged elsewhere. By noon, he sat inside Olivia's Indianapolis office reviewing city maps. Colored pins marked every known location. Meridian Tower, warehouse, office suite, bank, FedEx office, restaurant, parking garage. Rachel joined them an hour later. She studied the map for several minutes. Something's missing. Olivia frowned. What? We have offices, warehouses, bank, condominium. But where are the clients? Silence filled the room. Rachel continued. Investment firms exist because clients invest. Real estate companies buy and sell. Consultants advise? Where are the customers? No one answered, because no one had ever seen any. No client meetings, no property tours, no investors. Only the same small group meeting each weekend. Wednesday morning, another report solved part of that mystery. Ryan Keller had been followed to a secure document storage company. Not a public warehouse, a records archive. He remained inside nearly 2 hours. When he emerged, investigators photographed him carrying 10 banker boxes filled with files. Instead of taking them to Brooks Strategic Holdings, he drove directly to the Midwest Horizon warehouse. Paper records, electronic servers, weekend meetings. The operation maintained both digital and physical documentation. Professional, Organized. Deliberate. Professional. Organized. Deliberate. Rachel looked increasingly concerned. They're preserving something. Or hiding something, Olivia added. Thursday afternoon, Ethan received an unexpected phone call. The caller identified himself immediately. This is Charles Winfield. Ethan froze. The accountant. I believe we've never met. No. But I understand you've been asking questions. Ethan said nothing. Winfield continued calmly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? I'd prefer discussing it privately. I'm not interested. I think you should be. The accountant's voice remained polite. No lawyers. No investigators. Just you and me. When? Tomorrow. Where? A coffee shop. Ethan ended the call without answering. Within minutes, he was sitting in Rachel's office. She listened carefully. Did he threaten you? No. Did he admit anything? No. Rachel thought for a moment. He knows. What? Someone told him you're investigating. Olivia immediately disagreed. Or, they're monitoring the bank. Rachel nodded slowly. That's possible. Either explanation troubled Ethan, because both suggested the organization had begun reacting. Friday morning, they met again. Benjamin Hale joined the discussion by video conference. After hearing about Winfield's phone call, he spoke firmly. Don't meet him. I wasn't planning to. Good. Benjamin adjusted his glasses. When organizations begin making direct contact, they're assessing damage, Rachel added quietly, or trying to control it. Benjamin nodded. Exactly. Saturday surveillance resumed. Everything appeared normal until late afternoon. Daniel Brooks entered Suite 204, carrying 2 large cardboard boxes. An hour later, he exited carrying nothing. Ryan Keller entered afterward, then Charles Winfield, then Emily. Each stayed less than 30 minutes. Finally, just before sunset, a commercial shredding truck arrived. Olivia's investigator photographed employees wheeling dozens of sealed archive boxes into the shredder. Records destroyed, legally, possibly, suspiciously, absolutely. Olivia called immediately. They're cleaning house. Rachel answered before Ethan could. Then we accelerate. Sunday morning, Rachel filed emergency preservation requests related to every known banking relationship connected to Midwest Horizon Ventures. Not lawsuits, not accusations. Simply legal notices requesting that records be retained pending anticipated litigation. Perfectly lawful, perfectly timed. Late that afternoon, Ethan stood alone inside his garage, sanding the same unfinished oak chair he had abandoned weeks earlier when Lauren first called. He stopped suddenly. The orbital sander fell silent. Something small had caught his attention. Inside the drawer of his workbench lay an old accordion folder containing tax returns. He opened it absent-mindedly. Inside rested copies of every federal return he and Emily had filed since their marriage. One envelope looked different. Not government-issued, no return address, already opened. He didn't remember seeing it before. Inside sat only a single folded sheet of paper. No letterhead, no signature, just one typed sentence. Check your 2024 tax return. Look at Schedule B. Ethan stared at the anonymous message for several long seconds. Then he reached for the tax folder. Whatever had been hidden inside the weekends. Someone else apparently wanted him to find it. Ethan carried the tax folder directly to Rachel Morrison's office. He never opened Schedule B at home. If the anonymous note was genuine, he wanted another set of eyes beside him before drawing conclusions. Rachel cleared her afternoon calendar the moment she saw the expression on his face. You found something. Maybe. He placed the anonymous note on her desk. She read the single sentence twice. No postmark. It was inside our tax records. You don't know who put it there? No. Rachel opened the thick binder containing Ethan and Emily's jointly filed 2024 federal return. Every page had been professionally prepared by the accounting firm they had used for years. Income, deductions, mortgage interest, retirement contributions. Everything appeared ordinary. Then she reached Schedule B, interest, and ordinary dividends. Her eyes narrowed. What? She pointed to a single line. Additional financial accounts. A check mark appeared beside yes. Ethan frowned. I don't remember that. You probably wouldn't. Rachel continued reading. The return indicated that the taxpayers maintained an ownership interest in foreign or additional financial accounts requiring disclosure. That isn't possible, Ethan said quietly. I've never had one. Rachel looked back through previous years. The answer had been no, no, no. Only the most recent return contained the change. Who prepared this? She asked. Our accountant. Did you review it before signing? I reviewed the income numbers, the deductions, the refund. But Schedule B, he shook his head. No. Rachel closed the folder. Most people don't. She looked directly at him, which is exactly why this matters. Ethan remained silent. One checkbox, one overlooked page, one tiny detail. Sometimes fraud entered a person's life through something that insignificant. Rachel picked up the phone. I want to speak with your accountant. By late afternoon, they sat inside the office of Howard Ellis, the CPA who had prepared Ethan and Emily's taxes for nearly 6 years. Howard looked genuinely confused. I don't understand. Rachel slid the return across his desk. Who checked this box? Howard adjusted his glasses. I'd have to review my work papers. He opened his computer archive. Within minutes, he located the electronic file. What? Ethan asked. Howard frowned. This wasn't entered by me. Rachel leaned forward. Explain. Our software tracks changes. He pointed toward a revision history screen. The information arrived through the client portal after I completed the draft. Ethan's heartbeat slowed. The client portal. Howard nodded. Someone logged in using the client account. When? Howard checked the timestamp. April 7th. Ethan immediately opened his notebook. April 7th. A Sunday, one of Emily's Indianapolis weekends. Who has access to the portal? Rachel asked. Howard answered without hesitation. The primary email belongs to Emily. What about Ethan? Read-only access. Rachel and Ethan exchanged a silent glance. Howard continued scrolling. The attachment uploaded that evening included revised financial disclosures. What attachment? Don't. I'll print it. Several pages emerged from the office printer. The first page carried no surprises. The second did. Additional financial account certification, prepared by Brooks Strategic Holdings. The room became completely silent. Howard looked from one face to the other. Is something wrong? Rachel answered carefully. Mr. Ellis? Did you verify this document independently? Howard looked embarrassed. No. It appeared professionally prepared. It matched the client's upload. So I incorporated the revision. He looked at Ethan. I assumed you approved it. Ethan answered quietly. I've never seen it. Howard's face lost its color. Outside the accounting office, Rachel stopped walking. This changes everything. How? We no longer have only forged banking documents. We have tax filings. She lowered her voice. Federal documents. Ethan looked back toward the building. I signed that return. You signed what you believed was accurate. Does that matter? Legally. Very much. She paused. But someone intentionally caused you to certify false information. That evening, Olivia called from Indianapolis. I've got another identification. I'm listening. The anonymous courier who kept delivering envelopes. Yes. We finally traced his employer. Who? A private document management company. What kind do? They specialize in corporate formation packages, articles of organization, ownership records, registered agent filings, everything required to create companies quickly. Another piece of the puzzle settled quietly into place. Wednesday morning, Ethan met Benjamin Hale again. The retired federal prosecutor listened carefully to the latest developments. When Ethan finished, Benjamin remained thoughtful for nearly a minute. Finally, he spoke. I've changed my opinion? Rachel looked surprised. About what? I no longer believe this began as ordinary financial fraud. What do you think now? Ethan asked. Benjamin folded his hands. I think someone built a structure. What kind of structure? One designed to survive scrutiny. He began listing facts, multiple companies, separate accountants, legal entities, different property holdings, digital infrastructure, forged signatures, tax documentation, beneficial ownership amendments. That's not impulsive crime. That's architecture. The word stayed with Ethan. Architecture. Someone had designed every layer, every company, every document, every weekend. Nothing appeared accidental anymore. Thursday afternoon, Olivia received another surveillance breakthrough. Ryan Keller had not traveled to Chicago for business. He had visited a secure data recovery laboratory. The investigator photographed him leaving with 3 encrypted external hard drives. Instead of taking them back to the office, he carried them into the condominium, not the business suite, the private residence upstairs. Rachel frowned after reviewing the report. That's interesting. Why? If those drives contained ordinary business records, they'd stay in the office. Exactly. Friday evening, Ethan returned home earlier than usual. Emily stood in the kitchen preparing homemade soup. She smiled warmly. I thought we could have a quiet weekend. His eyes lingered on her face. You aren't going to Indianapolis. She looked surprised. No. Lauren's finally improving. The sentence sounded rehearsed, not dramatic, simply convenient. 9 months of emergency weekend visits, ending immediately after shredding Truck's forged documents and legal preservation notices. Coincidence. Ethan no longer believed in many coincidences. They ate dinner peacefully. Emily talked about work, neighborhood gossip, vacation ideas, future home renovations. She sounded almost relieved, as though some invisible burden had disappeared. Later that night, while Emily showered upstairs, Ethan walked quietly into the home office. He had no intention of searching through drawers, no intention of opening computers. Instead, he simply looked around the room. Everything appeared exactly as always. Family photographs, desk calendar, printer, bookshelf. Then something caught his attention. A cardboard shipping box beside the recycling bin. FedEx, already flattened. He picked it up. The shipping label had been torn away, almost completely. One small section remained attached near the corner. Sender Brooks Strategic Holdings. Nothing else. No date, no contents. Just enough to confirm the package had originated from Daniel Brooks' office. Emily called from upstairs. Ethan. He placed the box back exactly where he had found it. I'm in here. Can you bring me a towel? Of course. He left the office without touching anything else. Saturday morning arrived quietly. Emily made pancakes, played music, suggested they visit the local farmer's market. For the first time in months, she showed no intention of leaving Columbus. Halfway through breakfast, Ethan's phone vibrated. Olivia. He excused himself politely. What happened? We've got movement. I thought nobody was meeting this weekend. They weren't. So, Daniel Brooks just entered the warehouse. Alone? No. Who's with him? Olivia's voice became noticeably more serious. The FBI. Silence. Ethan gripped the phone tighter. What? 2 agents. Marked vehicles. No. Unmarked SUVs. They showed credentials. You saw them. Our investigator photographed the badges from a distance. Ethan felt every thought stop at once. Raid. We don't know. No tactical teams. No uniforms. No search warrant that we could see. Then why are they there? Olivia answered quietly. I don't think they're arresting him. What do you think? I think... She paused. I think they're talking. The call ended. Ethan remained standing in the backyard for nearly a full minute. If federal agents were speaking privately with Daniel Brooks, everything he believed about the investigation might change, because there was one possibility no one had considered until that moment. Daniel Brooks might not be preparing to fight the government. He might already be preparing to cooperate. The possibility changed everything. If Daniel Brooks had already begun speaking with federal agents, Ethan could no longer assume he was dealing with a united organization. Someone might already be protecting himself. Someone else might be preparing to disappear. Rachel Morrison called an emergency meeting for Monday morning. Present were only 4 people: Rachel, Olivia, Benjamin Hale, Ethan. Rachel closed the conference room door before speaking. We're going to discuss possibilities. Benjamin immediately corrected her. Only possibilities supported by evidence. Rachel nodded. Fair. She wrote 3 headings on a legal pad. Option 1, routine regulatory meeting. Option 2, confidential interview. Option 3, cooperation. No arrests have occurred, she said. No search warrants that we've confirmed. No public filings. Benjamin added another point. If Daniel were already under indictment, his attorney would almost certainly be present. Olivia nodded. We didn't see one. So we don't know. Ethan listened quietly. The uncertainty frustrated him less than it once would have. Years investigating fraud had taught him that unanswered questions often stayed unanswered until one critical document surfaced. Guessing accomplished nothing. Benjamin turned toward Ethan. What concerns me more isn't Daniel. It's Emily. Ethan looked up. Why? If Daniel is talking, he'll protect himself. If Emily doesn't know he's cooperating. Benjamin let the sentence hang unfinished. Rachel completed it. She may continue destroying evidence. The room became silent. Olivia opened another surveillance folder. We've already documented 1 shredding company. What if there are others? Rachel looked toward Ethan. We need to know whether documents still exist. Without breaking the law, Ethan said. Exactly. That afternoon, Olivia's investigator reported something unexpected. The Midwest Horizon warehouse appeared almost empty. No employees, no deliveries, no visitors. Only 1 vehicle remained parked behind the building, Ryan Keller's SUV. He entered at 8:12 a.m. By 4:40 p.m., he had not emerged. What could he be doing? Ethan asked. Olivia shrugged. Backing up servers. Destroying records. Installing equipment. We don't know. What about Daniel? No sign of him. Emily. At work in Columbus. For the first time since the investigation began, the central figures had separated. That alone suggested change. Tuesday morning, Rachel received another unexpected call from Huntington's legal department. She placed the conversation on speaker after obtaining permission. The attorney spoke carefully. We're responding to your preservation request. Rachel thanked him. We've identified additional documentation. What kind? Internal compliance notes. Benjamin immediately leaned forward. What did they say? The attorney hesitated. I can't discuss specifics, but I can tell you this. One employee questioned the beneficial ownership paperwork. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. When? The day it was received. What happened? Our records indicate the concern was reviewed and resolved. By whom? I'm unable to disclose that. Rachel asked another question. Was the paperwork rejected? No. So someone approved it? Yes. The call ended a few minutes later. Benjamin remained thoughtful. Interesting, Rachel agreed. Very. Ethan looked between them. What am I missing? Benjamin answered first. Someone inside the bank noticed a problem. And someone else overruled it, Rachel added quietly. Which means the paperwork was convincing enough to survive internal review. Wednesday brought another anonymous communication. This one arrived electronically. Not through email, not by text message. Instead, Olivia discovered it waiting inside the secure portal her investigators used to exchange surveillance reports. The sender had uploaded a single PDF. No name, no explanation. The file contained only one scanned document, an agenda, meeting agenda, Midwest Horizon Ventures, quarterly strategy session. Most items were unreadable. One line remained perfectly clear. Transition beneficial ownership before audit. Rachel stared at the page. Benjamin frowned. This could be genuine. Or planted, Olivia agreed. We can't authenticate it. Ethan read the sentence several more times. Transition beneficial ownership before audit. Someone had expected scrutiny, long before Ethan knew anything. Thursday morning, Ethan met Howard Ellis again. The accountant had spent several days reviewing archived portal logs. I found something else. He printed another report. Every client portal login displayed an IP address. Most originated from Ethan's home. One originated from Emily's office. Another came from her cell phone. Only one looked unfamiliar, downtown Indianapolis, Saturday, 2:11 p.m. The exact weekend Ethan had received the text claiming Emily was sitting outside Lauren's hospital room. Howard looked embarrassed. I should have noticed. You had no reason, Ethan replied. Howard shook his head. I've been doing taxes for 30 years. I tell clients to review every page. They never do. Neither had Ethan. He silently promised himself that he never would overlook another signature or checkbox again. That evening, Emily surprised him. I took Friday off. You did? I thought we could spend the whole day together. She smiled warmly. It's been months. He looked at her carefully. Nothing about her expression suggested fear, only hope, or perhaps relief. He wondered whether she truly believed the deception had ended. If Daniel Brooks had cut ties, if the weekends were over, maybe she imagined life could simply return to normal. Ethan realized something uncomfortable. He no longer knew whether she was pretending or trying to escape something herself. Friday morning, they drove north toward Alum Creek State Park. Emily suggested hiking, something they had not done together in nearly a year. The trails were quiet. Late autumn leaves covered the ground. For nearly an hour, they talked about ordinary things, movies, neighbors, holiday plans. Not once did she mention Lauren. Not once did she mention Indianapolis. Eventually, they stopped beside the reservoir. Emily looked across the water. I've missed this. So have I. She smiled sadly. I know I've been distracted. Ethan waited. She continued. Work. My sister. Everything. For one brief moment, Ethan wondered whether she intended to confess. Instead, she simply reached for his hand. I'm sorry. 2 simple words. No explanation, no details, no truth. Yet somehow they hurt more than another lie would have. Saturday afternoon, Olivia called again. I think we've identified the leak. What leak? The anonymous messages. The tax note. The agenda. How? We reviewed surveillance around the warehouse. And one employee kept leaving separately. Who? A junior administrative assistant. What makes her suspicious? She resigned. When? 3 days after the shredding truck arrived, Olivia emailed a personnel record. Name, Natalie Pierce, age 26, administrative coordinator, employed 8 months, no criminal history, no social media activity after resigning. Benjamin reviewed the information later that evening. If she's our source, she's scared. Rachel nodded. People rarely risk anonymous warnings unless they believe something is wrong. Ethan looked at Natalie's employee photograph. She looked young, ordinary. Nothing about her suggested someone capable of organizing complex financial fraud, which made her more believable. Maybe she had simply seen too much. Sunday morning, another surprise arrived. Rachel received formal notice from Huntington's outside counsel. The bank intended to preserve every document connected to Midwest Horizon Ventures, pending anticipated litigation. No lawsuit had yet been filed, no criminal charges announced. Still, records would no longer disappear. Rachel smiled for the first time in days. That's significant, Benjamin agreed. Very. Ethan asked the obvious question. What happens now? Benjamin answered quietly. Now we wait for someone to make a mistake. Almost as if the universe had been listening. Olivia's phone rang. She answered immediately. Her expression changed within seconds. What happened? Rachel asked. Olivia lowered the phone. Our investigator just spotted Emily. Where? Not in Columbus. Not in Indianapolis. Where then? Olivia looked directly at Ethan. She's walking into the federal courthouse. Every thought inside Ethan's mind stopped at once. Alone. Olivia nodded. No Daniel. No Charles. No Ryan. Just Emily. Rachel slowly stood. Benjamin closed his notebook. None of them spoke for several seconds, because every assumption they had made during the previous weeks suddenly collapsed beneath one unavoidable possibility. Emily Carter wasn't following Daniel Brooks anymore. She had gone to the federal courthouse on her own. And there was only one reason someone carrying this many secrets voluntarily walked into that building without a lawyer. She had finally decided to talk. No one moved for several seconds after Olivia delivered the news. Emily, alone, inside the federal courthouse. Rachel was the first to speak. Stay exactly where your investigator is. We're not following her inside. I know. But document everything outside. Olivia nodded. Already happening. Benjamin Hale quietly closed his notebook. I don't think this is an accident. Ethan looked at him. You think she arranged the meeting? Maybe. Or maybe someone arranged it for her. Rachel added another possibility. Or she received a subpoena. Benjamin considered that for a moment before shaking his head. If she'd been served with a subpoena, she'd almost certainly have legal representation. Not always, Rachel replied. Not always, Benjamin agreed, but usually. Ethan remained silent. For weeks he had imagined confronting Emily, demanding answers, asking why. Now the questions no longer mattered as much as timing. If she had voluntarily entered the courthouse, something significant had already changed. Olivia called again 93 minutes later. She's coming out. Alone? Yes. Anyone with her? No. How does she look? Olivia paused before answering. Different. What does that mean? Not frightened. Not relieved. More like... She searched for the right word. Exhausted. The investigator photographed Emily walking slowly toward her car. She carried no briefcase, no documents, only her purse. No one approached her. No agents escorted her. She drove directly back toward Columbus. No stop in Indianapolis. No meeting with Daniel Brooks. No visit to the condominium. The pattern had finally broken. Tuesday morning, Ethan returned to work for the first time in over a week. Falcon Integrity Solutions felt strangely familiar. Ordinary fraud cases, insurance files, coffee brewing in the break room. His coworkers greeted him normally. None of them knew his marriage had quietly become part of an investigation. Near lunchtime, Mark Henderson stopped by Ethan's office. "You doing better?" "I don't know." Mark nodded. "Fair answer." Before leaving, he placed a thin folder on Ethan's desk. "I almost forgot." "What is it?" "Professional licensing renewal." Ethan thanked him. After Mark walked away, he opened the packet automatically. Renewal instructions, continuing education requirements, identity verification form. He froze. The state licensing board had recently added a new verification requirement. Applicants needed to disclose beneficial ownership interests in private companies connected to financial investigations. Another coincidence, or perhaps another reminder. Had the forged paperwork remained undiscovered, Ethan could have unknowingly submitted false information to his own licensing authority. The realization sent a chill through him. The consequences might have extended far beyond one bank account. That afternoon, Rachel called. "I've spoken with someone." "Who?" "Not by phone." "What do you mean?" "They requested an in-person meeting." "When?" "This evening." "Who requested it?" Rachel hesitated. "They wouldn't identify themselves." "Then why agree?" "Because they knew details that were never made public." An hour later, Rachel, Benjamin, Ethan, and Olivia gathered inside a private conference room at Rachel's office. At exactly 6 o'clock, the receptionist quietly opened the door. A young woman stepped inside. Ethan recognized her immediately from Olivia's employee file. Natalie Pierce, the administrative assistant. She looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. She held a single, expandable file folder tightly against her chest. Rachel greeted her calmly. "Thank you for coming." Natalie looked toward Ethan. "I know who you are." He nodded but said nothing. She swallowed nervously. "I don't have much time." Benjamin spoke gently. "Start wherever you're comfortable." Natalie sat. For nearly 30 seconds, she stared at the table before finally speaking. "I didn't know what they were doing." No one interrupted. "When I started working there, I thought it was a normal investment company. They paid well. The office looked legitimate." She took a shaky breath. "Then I started seeing different names." "What names?" Rachel asked. "People. Companies. Ownership documents." None of it matched. Benjamin quietly asked another question. "Did you ever meet Emily Carter?" Natalie nodded. "Almost every weekend." "What was her role?" "I don't know." "She wasn't an employee." But everyone acted like she belonged there." Ethan listened carefully. No anger, no accusations. "Only facts," Natalie continued. "She mostly organized paperwork. Prepared meeting binders. Verified signatures." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "Verified signatures." Natalie nodded. "I never watched anyone forge documents." "But..." She looked directly at Ethan. "I saw your name." The room became completely silent. "Where?" Rachel asked. "On ownership forms. Tax documents. Bank packets." Benjamin leaned forward. "Did Emily prepare them?" Natalie answered carefully. "I saw her checking them. I don't know who created them." Rachel opened a legal pad. "Tell us everything you remember." For the next 2 hours, Natalie described the office routine. Weekend meetings, locked conference rooms, courier pickups, Boxes of corporate records, Daniel Brooks directing discussions, Charles Winfield reviewing financial statements, Ryan Keller maintaining encrypted servers. Every detail matched Olivia's surveillance. Nothing contradicted existing evidence. Then Natalie reached into her folder. I brought something. She carefully removed a flash drive. Benjamin immediately stopped her. Don't plug that into anything. I wasn't going to. She slid it across the table. I copied it before I resigned. Rachel looked at the drive, but didn't touch it. What's on it? I don't know everything. But there are meeting minutes, corporate resolutions, scanned correspondence, and, Natalie looked toward Ethan again, a folder with your name. Every heartbeat seemed louder than the last. Benjamin carefully placed the flash drive into an evidence bag Rachel had prepared. Did anyone know you copied this? Natalie shook her head. I don't think so. Why leave? Her eyes filled with tears. Because they asked me to witness signatures. Did you? No. What happened? Daniel said I worried too much. I resigned the next morning. Rachel asked the final question. Why contact us? Natalie looked at Ethan. Because when I searched your name online, I learned what you did for a living. What do you mean? You investigate fraud. She lowered her eyes. I realized the person whose name kept appearing on those documents was the one person who would never agree to them. Silence filled the room. Benjamin finally stood. We're finished for tonight? Natalie looked frightened. Am I in trouble? Rachel answered immediately. No. But from this point forward, you don't discuss this meeting with anyone. Natalie nodded. I understand. After she left, no one spoke until the office door closed completely. Benjamin broke the silence. Chain of custody. Rachel sealed the evidence bag. Olivia documented the time, the date, the witnesses present, every procedural step. Ethan watched quietly. His emotions no longer mattered, only the evidence did. Benjamin looked at the sealed flash drive. This is the first piece of direct documentary evidence. Rachel nodded. If it authenticates, Benjamin finished the sentence. Everything changes. Ethan stared at the small plastic drive lying inside the clear evidence bag. For weeks he had built a case from photographs, timelines, bank records, corporate filings. Now for the first time the answers themselves might already exist, not hidden inside theories, not buried beneath assumptions, waiting quietly inside a single folder labeled with his own name. Rachel refused to examine the flash drive immediately. We do this correctly, she said. Benjamin agreed without hesitation. If this ever reaches court, authenticity matters as much as content. By 8 o'clock the following morning, Rachel had arranged for an independent digital forensic laboratory in Columbus to create a forensic image of the device. Nothing would be opened directly. Nothing would be altered. Every action would be documented. Ethan watched through a glass observation window as a technician wearing latex gloves photographed the flash drive from every angle. Serial number, exterior condition, evidence bag seal, timestamp. Only then did the technician connect it to a write-blocking device that prevented any modification. Benjamin nodded approvingly. This is exactly how it should be done. 2 hours later, the technician emerged, carrying a preliminary report. The drive hasn't been encrypted. Rachel looked surprised. That's unusual. It contains approximately 600 files. What kinds? PDF documents, scanned correspondence, spreadsheets, meeting minutes, and email archives. Ethan asked the question, and everyone was thinking. Is there a folder named Carter? The technician checked his notes. Yes. One folder. 43 files. No one spoke. Rachel simply asked, Can we begin reviewing the forensic copy, hun? Yes. The first document was almost disappointingly ordinary. Meeting agenda, Midwest Horizon Ventures, quarterly operations. The second, expense reimbursements. The third, property maintenance invoices. Everything looked legitimate. Benjamin remained patient. Fraud rarely starts with a dramatic document. It starts with ordinary paperwork. The fourth file changed everything. Subject Identity Presentation Strategy. Rachel slowly opened the PDF. Several names appeared in a table, each accompanied by a short evaluation. Financial history, credit quality, public reputation, professional licensing, business experience. Ethan found his own name halfway down the list. Bradley Foster. No. He blinked, then realized his own mind had wandered. The document actually read Ethan Carter. Professional reputation excellent, credit profile excellent, litigation history none, financial investigations background, high credibility, recommended visibility level limited public disclosure. The room fell completely silent. Benjamin quietly read the last line aloud. Suitable for credibility support. Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. He had never met the people preparing this report. Yet someone had researched nearly every public aspect of his life. Not to attack him, to use him. The next file carried an even more disturbing title, Candidate Review Notes. Inside appeared several other names, doctors, attorneys, business owners. Some had check marks beside them, others had been rejected. Comments filled the margins. Too much debt. Recent lawsuit. Unstable employment. Not credible enough. Rachel closed the document slowly. This wasn't random. Benjamin nodded. They were selecting identities. Not stealing them. Curating them. Ethan understood immediately. The organization had searched for individuals whose reputations could strengthen corporate filings if quietly associated with new entities. He had simply fit the profile. The 20th file inside the Carter folder contained scanned correspondence. Most messages involved routine scheduling. One email immediately drew Rachel's attention. From Charles Winfield to Daniel Brooks. Subject Weekend Coordination. The body contained only 2 sentences. Emily will review signatures before Monday filing. Please ensure Ethan remains unaware until transition completes. No one spoke. The sentence required no interpretation. Emily's name, Ethan's name, the instruction itself. Benjamin finally broke the silence. This is direct evidence. Rachel nodded. If authentic. The forensic technician confirmed the metadata. Creation dates matched. Email headers remained intact. Nothing suggested alteration. Ethan stared at the screen without speaking. He had prepared himself for financial betrayal, even forgery. He had not prepared himself to read an email stating plainly that his own wife was expected to keep him unaware. Rachel quietly closed the file. We'll come back to it. He nodded once. His face revealed almost nothing. Years of interviewing fraud suspects had taught him emotional discipline. Inside, however, every memory of the previous 9 months rearranged itself. Every intercepted envelope, every excuse, every smile, every kiss before another supposed hospital visit. They no longer felt confusing. They felt intentional. The next discovery complicated everything again. Another email from Emily to Charles Winfield, subject, question. Rachel opened it carefully. The message was surprisingly brief. I don't think Ethan would ever agree if he knew. Is there another way to finish this without involving him further? No signature. No explanation, only those 2 sentences. Benjamin leaned back. Interesting, Rachel agreed. Very. Ethan looked at them. She objected. Benjamin answered carefully. At least once. Rachel added another observation. The response matters. She opened the following email. From Charles Winfield, Emily. The structure is already established. Removing him now creates greater risk for everyone. Continue according to plan. Destroy all draft copies after filing. That instruction explained the shredding trucks, the disappearing records, the constant courier services, everything fit. But one question remained. If Emily had objected, why had she continued? The forensic team continued reviewing documents throughout the afternoon. Corporate resolutions, bank correspondence, accounting records. Nothing directly implicated Ethan beyond the forged ownership paperwork. Then the final folder appeared. Private. Inside rested only one audio recording. Rachel looked toward the technician. Can you isolate it? He copied the file to a clean workstation. No one spoke while the recording loaded. A man's voice filled the room. Daniel Brooks. Recognizable from surveillance recordings Olivia had legally obtained in public places. The bank accepted everything. Another voice. Charles Winfield. The signatures were close enough? Daniel laughed quietly. No. The reputation was close enough. Several papers rustled. Then Daniel continued. Emily still thinks we're protecting her husband. Silence. Charles answered. As long as she believes the beneficial ownership is temporary. Ooh, she'll cooperate. Ethan's eyes remained fixed on the speaker. Daniel spoke again. After refinancing closes, we'll remove his name, before anyone notices. Charles responded immediately, assuming he never investigates. The recording ended. No one in the room moved. Benjamin finally exhaled. Well, Rachel looked toward Ethan. We finally know something important. Benjamin answered. Daniel lied to Emily. Ethan remained silent. Rachel continued. Based on this conversation, Emily believed your name would only appear temporarily. Daniel never intended to tell her the full plan. Benjamin folded his arms. That doesn't erase her responsibility. No. But it changes her level of knowledge. The distinction mattered, not emotionally. Legally. Late that evening, Rachel locked every copy of the forensic evidence inside a secure evidence cabinet. Benjamin stood beside Ethan near the office window overlooking downtown Columbus. You've been very quiet. I know. What are you thinking? Ethan watched traffic moving below. I spent weeks believing Emily was the architect. And now, I think she became part of someone else's design. Benjamin nodded slowly. That's possible, but remember something. What? Being manipulated doesn't automatically erase responsibility. I know. And neither does loving someone. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. For the first time since Lauren's accidental phone call, the investigation had separated one question into two. What had Emily done, and what had Emily actually known? The answers were no longer identical. Before Benjamin could say another word, Rachel's secure phone rang. She answered immediately. Her expression changed within seconds. What happened? Benjamin asked. Rachel slowly lowered the phone. That was the forensic lab. Is something wrong? No. They found another hidden partition on the flash drive. Ethan looked up. A hidden partition. Rachel nodded. It wasn't visible during the first examination. What does it contain? The answer came quietly. Video files. Benjamin frowned. How many? Rachel looked back at the technician's message. 21. She paused before reading the final line aloud. Several file names begin with the words Emily's statement. The discovery of the hidden partition forced everyone to slow down again. Benjamin Hale refused to let curiosity outrun procedure. Video evidence can be powerful, he said. It can also be misleading if we don't establish authenticity. The forensic technician agreed. The hidden partition had not been encrypted, but it had been intentionally concealed behind unused storage sectors. Whoever created it wanted ordinary users to overlook it. The files would need to be examined in sequence. Metadata would have to be preserved, creation dates verified, any edits identified. Rachel approved every recommendation. No shortcuts. By mid-morning, the laboratory completed its preliminary authentication. The 21 video files had all been created over a 6-month period. Different dates, different lengths, different cameras. None showed evidence of digital manipulation. Most had been recorded using the front-facing camera of a modern smartphone. The file names were simple: Emily Statement 01, Emily Statement 02, Emily Statement 03, and so on. Benjamin looked toward Ethan. "You don't have to watch these today," Ethan answered quietly. "I do." The technician opened the first recording. The image appeared shaky at first, then stabilized. Emily sat alone inside what appeared to be the Meridian Tower condominium. No makeup, hair loosely tied back. She looked exhausted. Someone behind the camera spoke. Daniel Brooks. "We're recording this for our legal files." Emily nodded nervously. Daniel continued. "State your name." "Emily Carter." "Today's date?" She answered, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel smiled reassuringly. "Good. Now explain why Ethan agreed." Emily frowned. "He didn't." Daniel laughed softly. "I mean, explain why he would agree." Emily looked uncomfortable. "I don't know." Daniel's voice remained calm. "Remember what we discussed." Long silence. Finally, Emily spoke again. "Ethan believes temporary ownership helps with financing." Rachel immediately paused the recording. Benjamin looked at Ethan. "Did you ever tell her that—" "No." "Never." The technician continued. Emily struggled through the remaining statement. Every sentence sounded rehearsed. Every answer came after visible hesitation. When the recording ended, Rachel made one note. "Coached." Benjamin nodded. "Possibly." The second recording looked different. Emily entered the room already crying. Daniel remained behind the camera. "You've changed your mind." Emily nodded. "I don't want to do this anymore." Daniel spoke gently. "You signed confidentiality agreements." "I know." "You've already participated." "I know." If you leave now, the banks will ask questions." Emily covered her face. "I never wanted Ethan involved." Daniel answered almost kindly. "He isn't involved. It's paperwork. Nothing more." Rachel froze the frame. She looked toward Benjamin. "This matches the email." Benjamin agreed. "Consistent." Neither of them claimed innocence. Neither of them claimed guilt. Only consistency. The third recording proved even more important. Charles Winfield appeared for the first time. He sat across from Emily with several folders spread across the table. "We're replacing draft signatures." Emily looked confused. "Replacing—" Charles smiled. "The final versions." She hesitated. "Has Ethan seen them?" Charles answered immediately. "He doesn't need to." Emily lowered her eyes. "No. I don't want anyone copying his signature." Charles remained patient. "No one is. We're using authorized reproductions." Benjamin paused the video. "There." Rachel nodded. "False legal terminology," Benjamin explained quietly. "There is no such thing as an authorized reproduction of someone's signature without authority." Ethan said nothing. Watching the conversation hurt more than reading emails. Emily kept asking the same question in different ways. Has Ethan agreed? Has Ethan seen this? Does Ethan know each time someone redirected her? Not always with lies, sometimes with carefully incomplete answers. They continued reviewing videos throughout the afternoon. Not all contained useful information. Some involved routine meeting summaries, others documented property inspections. Then they reached video 11. The atmosphere immediately felt different. Emily stood near a window. Daniel paced across the room. His voice sounded irritated. "The refinancing closes Friday," Emily answered. "I won't sign anything else." "You don't have to." "Then why am I here?" Daniel stopped walking. "Because Ethan trusts you." Silence. Emily looked genuinely confused. "What does that have to do with anything?" Daniel smiled. "Everything." Rachel slowly exhaled. No further explanation followed. Daniel simply changed the subject. But his single sentence carried enormous weight. Late that afternoon, the forensic technician interrupted. "I found something." He enlarged one video frame. A whiteboard stood behind Daniel. Most writing remained unreadable. The laboratory enhanced the image carefully, without altering content, only improving visibility. One phrase became legible: exit plan. Below it appeared 3 bullet points: refinancing, ownership transfer, dissolution. Benjamin folded his arms. "So there always was a plan to remove Ethan." Rachel nodded. "According to their internal strategy." Ethan stared silently at the screen. He realized something he had overlooked. Daniel had not chosen Ethan because he hated him. Daniel had chosen him because he respected his reputation. That somehow felt even colder. As evening approached, the final 3 recordings remained. Video 19 contained another surprise. Emily sat alone. No Daniel, no Charles. Apparently recording herself. She looked directly into the camera. "If anyone ever watches this..." She stopped, started again. "I don't think what's happening is legal." Her breathing became uneven. "They keep saying Ethan will never know. They say his name disappears after the financing." She looked away. "I asked to leave. They told me leaving now would destroy everything." The recording ended abruptly. No explanation, no signature, no audience. Benjamin remained quiet for nearly a minute. Finally, he said, "She made this for herself." Rachel agreed. "I don't think anyone else was supposed to see it." Video 20 refused to play. The file had been damaged. The laboratory estimated nearly 60% of the data remained recoverable. Recovery would require additional time. Everyone agreed to wait. Then came the final recording. Video 21. The timestamp matched the day before Natalie Pierce resigned. Emily looked exhausted. Daniel was absent. Instead, Ryan Keller operated the camera. His voice came from behind it. "Daniel wants confirmation." Emily answered immediately. "I'm done." Ryan spoke calmly. "The paperwork is finished." "I don't care." "I won't come back." Long silence. Ryan finally asked one question. "What about your husband?" Emily closed her eyes. "When he learns the truth, I'll deal with it." The recording stopped. No dramatic ending. No confession. Just silence. When the final screen faded to black, no one spoke. The laboratory had answered many questions, but not all. Rachel organized her notes. Benjamin walked toward the window. Olivia reviewed surveillance timelines. Ethan remained seated. His eyes still rested on the blank monitor. Benjamin finally broke the silence. "What are you thinking now?" Ethan answered after a long pause. "I think Emily crossed legal lines." "Yes." "I think Daniel manipulated her." "Possibly." "I think Charles understood exactly what was happening." Benjamin nodded. "And..." Ethan looked toward the evidence cabinet. "I think someone else knew everything from the beginning." Rachel turned. "Who?" Ethan remembered a detail almost everyone had forgotten. Lauren, the supposedly sick sister. The lie that started everything. No one had interviewed her. No one had asked why she allowed Emily to use her illness for 9 months. No one had confirmed when she first learned the truth. Rachel immediately understood. "We've been focused on Indianapolis," Benjamin added quietly. "Maybe we should have been looking at Columbus all along." Just then, Olivia's phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen. Her expression hardened. "Natalie." Rachel stood immediately. "What happened?" Olivia answered after listening for only a few seconds. "Natalie just got home. And her apartment has been broken into." Nothing appeared stolen, except one thing. The small cardboard box that had originally held the flash drive. Someone had gone looking for evidence, and they had arrived one day too late. The break-in transformed the investigation overnight. Until that moment, Rachel Morrison had treated the case as a sophisticated financial fraud. Now someone had physically entered an apartment looking for evidence. That meant at least one person believed the hidden files still existed. Rachel contacted the Columbus Police Department immediately. Natalie Pierce had already reported the burglary. Officers had processed the apartment. There were no obvious fingerprints. No electronics had been taken. Cash remained inside a bedroom drawer. Jewelry was untouched. Only one shelf in the living room had been disturbed, the shelf where Natalie had kept the original flash drive box. Benjamin Hale quietly observed, "That wasn't a burglary." Rachel nodded. It was a targeted search. Natalie arrived at Rachel's office later that afternoon. She looked even more exhausted than the previous evening. "I don't understand." "I never told anyone," Rachel answered carefully. "Who knew you resigned?" "Everyone." "Who knew you kept documents?" "No one." Benjamin asked another question. "Did anyone ever see the flash drive?" Natalie thought for several moments. "I don't think so." "Did you copy the files at work?" "Yes." "Where?" "The records room." "Were there cameras?" Natalie nodded. "Only in the hallway." Ryan Keller. The name entered Ethan's mind immediately. If anyone monitored internal security systems, it would have been the IT consultant. Still, assumptions were not evidence. He remained silent. Benjamin seemed to reach the same conclusion. "We don't speculate. We verify." The forensic examination continued. This time the laboratory focused on metadata instead of content. Every hidden video, every email, every document. The timestamps aligned with surveillance records Olivia had gathered over the previous months. Weekend meetings, corporate filings, courier deliveries. Nothing conflicted. Instead, every independent source strengthened the others. Rachel smiled slightly. "This is exactly what we needed." Benjamin agreed. "Independent corroboration. No single document stands alone anymore." Wednesday morning, another unexpected development arrived. Huntington Bank contacted Rachel voluntarily. Its internal compliance department had reopened the beneficial ownership review after learning of the preservation request. A senior compliance officer requested a meeting, not because of litigation, because new questions had emerged. Rachel, Benjamin, and Ethan met the officer that afternoon. Her name was Melissa Grant. She placed 3 binders on the conference table. "I can't disclose customer balances." "I understand. But I can discuss our internal process." She opened the first binder. When beneficial ownership documents were submitted, our staff requested additional identification. Rachel looked surprised. "What kind?" "Government-issued identification." "And?" Melissa turned another page. "It was provided." She slid a photocopy across the table. "An Ohio driver's license." "Ethan's?" He immediately recognized the photograph. But something felt wrong. Rachel noticed it first. "The issue date." Melissa nodded. "The license copy shows an issue date 6 months before Mr. Carter actually renewed his license." Ethan frowned. "How is that possible?" "It isn't," Melissa answered calmly. The copy was digitally altered. Benjamin leaned forward. Did your bank detect that? Melissa looked disappointed. Not at the time. But we did now. Another layer of deception had finally surfaced. Not only had signatures been forged, identification documents had also been manipulated. Outside the bank, Benjamin summarized what had changed. The organization wasn't merely borrowing your identity. It was manufacturing supporting evidence, Rachel added. That significantly increases criminal exposure? Ethan remained thoughtful. For months, he had wondered why Daniel Brooks seemed so confident. Now the answer became clearer. Daniel had not relied on one forged signature. He had built multiple layers designed to support one another. If anyone questioned a document, another document appeared. If one record failed, a different record reinforced it. It was a carefully constructed system. Thursday afternoon. Olivia finally interviewed Lauren Mitchell. Rachel had deliberately delayed the meeting until enough evidence existed to evaluate Lauren's statements. The interview took place voluntarily inside Rachel's office. Lauren looked nervous from the moment she entered. She avoided Ethan's eyes. Rachel spoke first. You are not under arrest. We simply need truthful answers. Lauren nodded immediately. I'll tell you everything I know. Benjamin quietly turned on the digital recorder. Rachel asked the first question once. Were you ever diagnosed with cancer? Lauren answered without hesitation. No. Were you seriously ill? No. When did you learn Emily was telling people you were? Lauren looked down. The first weekend. Ethan's heart sank. The first weekend? She nodded. Emily called me crying. What did she say? She said she needed an excuse. Rachel remained calm. Did she explain why? No. Did you ask? Of course. Lauren swallowed hard. She kept saying it was temporary. Just until a business deal finished. Benjamin asked quietly, Did you believe her? Yes. At first, Lauren wiped tears from her face. I thought it was just lying to cover business travel. I didn't know Ethan was involved. When did you realize? The phone call. Everyone understood which phone call she meant. The one that had begun everything. I answered without thinking. I said, her voice broke. Ethan, I'm not sick. Silence filled the room. She looked toward Ethan for the first time. I'm sorry. I should have stopped it months earlier. Ethan said nothing. Only one thought echoed inside his mind. If Lauren had remained silent that afternoon, none of this might ever have been discovered. Rachel continued the interview. Did Emily ever mention Daniel Brooks? Yes. How? She called him her business partner. Did she trust him? Lauren nodded slowly. Completely. Until recently. Benjamin looked interested. What changed? Lauren answered carefully. About 3 weeks ago. Emily called me. She sounded terrified. What did she say? She asked if Ethan had mentioned anything strange. Rachel leaned forward, and I asked why. Lauren closed her eyes briefly. She said, I think Daniel lied to me. No one interrupted. Lauren continued. She wouldn't explain. She just kept repeating, I have to fix this before Ethan finds out. Benjamin quietly made another note. Timeline. 3 weeks earlier. That matched the shredding trucks, the courthouse visit, everything. After Lauren left, Rachel reviewed the interview carefully. She admitted participating in the deception. Benjamin nodded. But her statements match independent evidence. The emails, the videos, the surveillance timeline. Olivia added another observation. She never tried to protect Daniel. Or Charles. Rachel looked toward Ethan. What do you think? He answered honestly. I think Lauren lied. Yes. But I also think she believed Emily. Benjamin nodded. So do I. Friday morning brought another surprise. Natalie called Olivia. They came back. When? Last night. The police found fresh footprints outside my apartment. They think someone returned after officers left. Did they get inside? No. My landlord replaced every lock. Rachel immediately arranged temporary housing for Natalie at a confidential location. Benjamin approved the decision. If someone is still searching for evidence, our witness deserves protection. Late that afternoon, while Ethan prepared to leave work, his office receptionist called. Someone left an envelope for you. No name. She shook her head. It was hand-delivered. Inside rested a single sheet of paper. No fingerprints, no signature. Only one typed sentence. Stop looking. She never meant to hurt you. Ethan read it twice, then placed it inside a plastic evidence sleeve without touching the paper again. Rachel examined it less than an hour later. Interesting. Why? Whoever wrote this didn't say Emily was innocent? Benjamin slowly nodded. They only said she never meant to hurt you. He looked directly at Ethan. Intent. Again. Someone keeps trying to separate intent from responsibility. Rachel placed the anonymous note beside the earlier one about Schedule B. Different paper, different printer, but perhaps the same invisible hand. Before anyone could continue the discussion, Olivia's secure phone rang. She answered immediately. Her expression hardened. What happened? Rachel asked. Olivia looked around the room before speaking. Our investigator just spotted Daniel Brooks, where he isn't running. He isn't hiding. So, where is he? Olivia took a slow breath. He's walking into the U.S. Attorney's office. This time he wasn't alone. Walking beside him was a criminal defense attorney carrying 2 thick banker boxes filled with documents. Daniel Brooks wasn't destroying evidence anymore. He was delivering it. Monday morning began with a phone call from the United States Attorney's Office. Rachel answered, while Ethan and Benjamin listened from across her conference table. The assistant U.S. attorney spoke carefully. I understand you represent Ethan Carter. I do. We're aware that you've submitted preservation notices involving Midwest Horizon Ventures. Rachel exchanged a brief glance with Benjamin. Yes. I cannot discuss an ongoing matter. I understand. But I would like to schedule a meeting. Rachel asked the obvious question. Is Mr. Carter a target of your investigation? The attorney answered immediately. No. Is he considered a witness? I'm not prepared to characterize his status. Benjamin quietly wrote one word on his notepad. Careful. The government was revealing almost nothing, but one answer mattered. Ethan was not a target. That single sentence lifted a burden he had silently carried for weeks. The meeting was scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. Until then, Rachel instructed everyone to continue exactly as before. No contact with Daniel. No contact with Emily. No assumptions, Benjamin approved. If Daniel has started cooperating, the government already knows more than we do. Our responsibility is preserving our own evidence. Tuesday morning brought unexpected news from Olivia. Ryan Keller had disappeared. Not dramatically. His apartment remained furnished. His vehicle had been recovered at the Columbus airport. His employer reported only that he had taken personal leave. No destination had been disclosed. Rachel frowned. Did he board an international flight? We're still checking, Olivia replied. Benjamin remained cautious. People travel. Disappearing isn't proof of guilt. No, Olivia admitted. But the timing is interesting. Everything about the case seemed to revolve around timing. Emily stopped traveling after the shredding trucks. Daniel entered the U.S. Attorney's office carrying banker boxes. Ryan suddenly vanished. Every movement suggested the organization had collapsed from within. Wednesday afternoon arrived. Rachel, Benjamin, and Ethan entered the federal building together. The meeting took place inside a plain conference room. No courtroom, no dramatic interrogation. Across the table sat Assistant U.S. Attorney Karen Mitchell and 2 FBI agents. One introduced himself as Special Agent David Collins, the other as Special Agent Rebecca Ortiz. Karen spoke first. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming." Ethan nodded. Karen continued, "We understand you've been the victim of identity-related fraud." Rachel answered before Ethan could. "My client intends to cooperate fully, as long as his legal rights are protected." Karen nodded. "That's understood." For nearly 40 minutes, the government asked straightforward questions. When did Ethan first become suspicious? How had he discovered the forged ownership records? When had he retained counsel who possessed the flash drive? Rachel answered procedural questions. Ethan answered factual ones. Benjamin remained mostly silent, watching, listening. Then, Agent Collins asked one unexpected question. "Has Emily Carter contacted you since visiting this courthouse?" Ethan answered honestly. "No." The agent nodded once. No follow-up. Rachel noticed the significance immediately. Emily's courthouse visit had been official, not accidental. Near the end of the meeting, Karen surprised everyone. "We're prepared to share one fact." Rachel waited. "Daniel Brooks has entered into a proffer agreement." Benjamin remained expressionless. Rachel simply asked, "Limited immunity for truthful information." Karen smiled slightly. "You understand the process." Benjamin finally spoke. "A proffer isn't cooperation." "No," Karen agreed. "But it's the beginning of a conversation." Ethan realized what that meant. Daniel had not escaped responsibility. He had only begun negotiating. As the meeting concluded, Agent Ortiz handed Rachel a business card. "If additional evidence appears, contact us immediately." Rachel accepted it. "We intend to." No one discussed charges. No one discussed arrests. Only evidence. Only procedure. Exactly as Benjamin had predicted from the beginning. Thursday morning, Rachel received another phone call. This one came from Emily. Rachel immediately informed Ethan before returning the call on speaker. Emily's voice sounded tired. "I know you're representing Ethan." "Yes." "I'd like to meet," Rachel answered calmly. "About what?" "I want to tell the truth." Benjamin quietly raised one finger. Rachel understood. "Are you represented by an attorney?" "No." "I recommend that you obtain one." Emily sighed. "I thought you'd say that." Rachel continued. "I can't advise you personally, but I strongly recommend independent counsel." Emily remained silent for several seconds. Then she quietly said, "Please tell Ethan." She stopped. Rachel waited. Finally, Emily finished. "I'm sorry." The call ended. Ethan stared at the phone. Benjamin spoke gently. "That wasn't a confession." "I know. But it wasn't manipulation either." Friday afternoon, another development arrived. Howard Ellis called Rachel. "I've reviewed every tax return connected to Ethan. And I found another irregularity." Rachel immediately scheduled a meeting. Howard laid 3 years of returns across the table. "The returns themselves are accurate. Mostly. What changed?" He pointed toward electronic filing authorizations. "Beginning last year, but Emily requested that all tax correspondence be sent electronically." "That's normal." Howard nodded. "It is. But she also removed Ethan's notification address." Ethan frowned. "I never approved that." Howard shook his head. The request came through the client portal. Another quiet change. Another small administrative adjustment. Another way to reduce the chance Ethan would notice future filings. Benjamin observed quietly. Layer upon layer. Rachel agreed. Nothing depended on one deception. Every safeguard had been bypassed one piece at a time. Saturday morning, Ethan remained alone in the house. Emily had moved into Lauren's guest bedroom after the courthouse meeting. Not because Rachel advised separation, not because a court ordered it. Emily had simply left. She sent one brief text. "I need time." Ethan never replied. He walked slowly through the quiet living room. Every photograph on the walls suddenly looked different. Vacation pictures, anniversary dinners, family holidays. None of them were necessarily false, but none of them felt uncomplicated anymore. He stopped beside the bookshelf. A framed photograph showed him and Emily hiking in the Smoky Mountains 3 years earlier. He remembered that trip clearly. No lies, no investigations. Just two people planning a future together. He quietly placed the frame face down. Not from anger, from uncertainty. He no longer knew which memories belonged to the marriage and which belonged to the deception. Sunday afternoon, Olivia called with what might become the final major breakthrough. Our investigator located Ryan Keller. Where? Denver. Doing what? He checked into a hotel under his own name. Rachel looked surprised. He isn't hiding. Apparently not. Benjamin immediately became cautious. Or perhaps he wants someone to find him, Olivia continued. There's more. He contacted the FBI. The room fell silent. How do you know? Rachel asked. Our investigator photographed 2 federal agents entering the hotel conference room. Benjamin slowly smiled for the first time in weeks. The wall is collapsing. Rachel nodded. First Daniel. Now Ryan. Ethan quietly looked toward the evidence cabinet containing the flash drive. One witness had brought documents. One suspect had brought banker boxes. Another suspect was now meeting federal agents. The elaborate structure Daniel Brooks had spent months constructing was no longer being dismantled by investigators alone. It was being dismantled from the inside. Just before sunset, Rachel received one final email. It came from an attorney Ethan had never heard of. The message contained only one sentence. I represent Emily Carter, and my client wishes to make a complete proffer regarding the fraud committed by Daniel Brooks, Charles Winfield, and others. Rachel read the message twice before looking up. The final piece had finally moved. Emily was no longer trying to protect the scheme. She was preparing to testify against it. Every great betrayal begins with a small lie that someone believes will never matter. In Ethan's story, the truth didn't arrive all at once. It surfaced piece by piece through patience, integrity, and the courage to keep asking the right questions. Sometimes the people we love make terrible choices not because they stop loving us, but because fear, manipulation, and pride convince them that one more lie will somehow fix the last one. Yet lies never protect relationships. They only postpone the pain. Trust is built over years, but can be shattered in a single moment, and once broken, it can only be restored through complete honesty and accountability. At the same time, this story reminds us that seeking justice does not require hatred. Ethan chose evidence over revenge, truth over assumptions, and the law over anger. That decision not only protected his future, but also revealed who was truly responsible. In life, we cannot always control the actions of others, but we can choose our own character when everything around us falls apart. And in the end, your integrity will always be worth more than any fortune gained through deception. If this story touched your heart or made you reflect on the importance of honesty and trust, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if you were in Ethan's place? Share your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoy emotional stories with powerful life lessons and unforgettable twists, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next